Chapter 223, Resonance, Is This Fine? Standing in front of the sea demon's mirror, Yunshi put down his hand. Yes, that will do. We don't need more, because you are being loved by the god. The Lamia queen smiled and gently kissed Yunshi's forehead. From now on, we Lamias will become your swords and shields, fighting for you. As long as there is still one Lamia in the world, the promise will never break. It seemed that the Lamia queen was really in a good mood. She blinked and teased, however, I myself still have a small problem. What's the problem? Yunshi asked in a hesitant tone. She was more mature than all the Lamias. Compared to the dangerous Dark Shadow Queen, she was more calm and leisurely. Her temperament could only be cultured by time. Her every move and smile could make Yunshi feel at ease. No wonder she was the queen of all Lamias. You haven't proposed to me. The Lamia queen pointed her fingers at Yunshi's mask and said in a naughty tone. Ah! Yunshi was dumbfounded. Not just me. You haven't proposed to those girls either, right? The Lamia queen said and looked at Yunshi with a kindly smile. It's a very important thing to girls. If you want to marry them, you should say it out loud courageously. In this world, once you have missed your chance, you will never be able to get them back again. Yunshi finally realized it. No wonder that the Lamias were so proactive, but the number of his brides hadn't increased. You are still too young. The Lamia queen held Yunshi in her arms and put his head on her chest. She whispered beside his ear as if she was tempting him, say it, say the magical spell. No girls can resist that spell. Don't worry, we Lamias have chosen you. No matter what happens, we will be always with you. Smelling the Lamia queen's pleasant body scent, Yunshi looked at her in confusion. This dream trial is too real. All beings in the water god's world have their special characters. They have their fate and make great efforts for their future. Why is this dream trial so different? The stars, why did you make me come to this world? I want you. I want you to be my bride, said Yunshi. He finally said the magical spell, which was an intoxication to all females. Even the infinite love from millions of people, it wouldn't be more than the love you have granted to him. You have the whole world, but you only love this boy. Even though the world would end in misfortune, you would only offer the boy honor and hope. The Lamia queen hummed the old poem Yunke had chanted. It was a story about a man who was loved by the god. In the world of despair, only the man was saved. In order to save the man, the great god gave up the whole world. The god witnessed the world's death and only took away the man. In that story, people abandoned their god and chose to step on a brand new road, obtaining a power named science. However, a monster suddenly descended into the world. When science could do no harm to the monster when it started to swallow the world, people finally remembered their god. However, the god didn't respond to their prayers. More precisely, the god only responded to one man. In the dying world, the god only protected that man, because that man had never betrayed his god and doubted his faith. In the world no one still believed in the god, the man was the god's last believer. Therefore, he became the god's only child. In the dying world, he was the only person who should be saved. This was the god's decision. When the world finally came to its end, the people sighed and regretted, and felt jealousy of the chosen one. This old poem was the last elegy the people in that world had left. The Lamia queen looked at the boy in her arms straining with eagerness. The great god. Since you have chosen this boy, then we will follow your will, becoming his power, no matter what future we will face. The Lamia queen thought, then lowered her head and kissed Yunshi's lips. Inside Yunshi's cold mask, the water god's power naturally spread around and resonated with the sea demon's mirror behind the Lamia queen. In the mermaid palace, the shell jewelry on the mermaid queen's ears suddenly emitted a clear and melodious sound. Obviously, it was also resonating with the sea demon's mirror. We have been bested. The lamias are too cunning. The mermaid queen brandished the trident in her hand with an unpleasant look. The great water god prefers me more. Why should they be the first? In the Celian water god temple, looking at the white rings which suddenly rang on the scepter, the Celian queen showed a complex expression on her face. The lamias have made their choice, we should also decide it as soon as possible. Which way will the world go? The great water god, you will finally decide your bride. Chapter 224, Sweet Whisper, Yunshi suddenly found that the Lamia queen's kiss was very inept, as if she was a young girl who had no experience. Yunshi had heard it from the lamias that the Lamia queen had procreated many descendants. He thought that she would be very skillful at first. Did I do something wrong? The Lamia queen noticed Yunshi's confusion. She blushed. Inexperienced is inexperienced. She couldn't pretend to be experienced. No, nothing, Yunshi stared at the Lamia queen. She looked as if she had become more beautiful after accepting his proposal. She had a very special charm now. Then, let's do it again, the Lamia queen vaguely guessed what Yunshi was thinking. She kissed Yunshi rashly, as if she was trying to prove something. Instantly, Yunshi was surrounded by the queen's sweet body heat. His body subconsciously remembered the Lamia queen's kiss. When Yunshi responded to her enthusiasm and kissed her lips, the suffocating feeling made the Lamia queen tremble. In the final analysis, she was the same as all the other lamias, because she hadn't actually had the experience of copulation. The deep kiss was what she learned from human romance novels, however, it was barely worth mentioning compared to Yunshi's experience. She resisted Yunshi's tongue not firmly. Under Yunshi's persevering tangle, she gave up resisting. Yunshi's tongue slid into her mouth and explored around. Soon after, Yunshi's passion influenced the Lamia queen. They held together and kissed each other, till the Lamia queen struggled intensely to gasp for breath. This is strange. Is this the method humans use to share feelings? The Lamia queen gasped, gazing at Yunshi with her watery eyes. Yes. Yunshi could feel the abundant energy in his body, as if the Lamia queen had a magical charm, because he just couldn't stop. Come on, love me. The Lamia queen bravely kissed him again. Gradually, she was no longer nervous and opened her mouth, welcoming Yunshi's tongue. Finally, their tongues tangled together tightly. It was a sweet, soft, comfortable feeling. The 6 horns on Yunshi's white emperor mask emitted lights at the same time. Puff! Puff! Wow! Whoa! Puff! Is this my illusion? Yunshi thought that he heard some sound, which he had heard once before. And gradually, the Lamia queen started to grasp his lips. She started to proactively respond to Yunshi's kiss. They were both drunk with this exciting feeling. Do you want to copulate with me? The Lamia queen gasped as her body started to secrete a special smell. Yunshi's heart struggled, as if it was suffering a summer storm. Should I go a step further? The Lamia queen wouldn't resist him, and this wouldn't be his first experience. After all, he had spent that wonderful time with the dark elf. Let's do it for 7 days and 7 nights. The Lamia queen licked her lips and excitedly announced the mating time she wanted. Ah! Yunshi woke up from his imagination suddenly. He remembered that the Lamia race had a different definition about copulation than a human. Even the most common Lamia could hold on for 12 hours, and many of them hoped to do it for 3 days and 3 nights. As the strongest Lamia, naturally, her mating time was much longer. 7 days and 7 nights. Isn't it enough? If you want, I can hold on for half a month. In order to make healthy babies, I don't mind if we extend the time. The Lamia Queen gazed at Yunshi with anticipation. Sorry, I don't have time for this. Yunshi smiled bitterly. Sheolongness, the Sky Sword's coming had almost entered the 3rd phase. He really shouldn't waste his time. He had to refuse the Queen's invitation, although the Queen was really seductive to him at the moment. Well, what a pity. Fortunately, the Lamia Queen also realized that it wasn't the time for doing this. Then, in recompense, give me one more kiss. The Lamia Queen acted like a girl in love, behaving in a spoiled manner. Yunshi held the Queen's waist and licked her neck. The Queen emitted a pleasant sound and stuck out her chest, catering to his behavior. The world is too strange. Feeling the soft body in his arms, Yunshi felt more confused about this world. Puff! Puff! Keep on! Keep on! Keep on! Honey, honey, let's copulate. Wow! Whoa! Whoa! A magical voice echoed around and above the old sacrificial altar. A pair of liquid eyes quietly opened inside the sea demon's mirror, gazing at the Lamia Queen and Yunshi. Chapter 225. The Sky Sword's footsteps as Yunshi and the Lamia Queen whispered sweet nothings of love in front of the sea demon's mirror. In the dark abyss under the ground, countless green slimes were merging with each other and evolving. The dark shadow spider was gracefully sitting on her throne of spider threads, looking at the crowd who were kneeling to her. Hail to the Queen! Our Queen will conquer the world. We must help our Queen defeat the evil water god at all costs and declare the glory of the Sky Sword. The dark shadow spider queen lateraled her head and exposed her snow-white neck, looking at these people with a scornful smile. Obviously, these people had all been conquered by her charm. Simple. It's too simple. Compared to how hard she tried recruiting that man, enchanting these men was as easy as breathing. She just cast the simplest charm magic, then these humans, who were upset about the water god from a long time ago, immediately surrendered and joined her camp. They were the water god's people at first, but they formed a dark cabal, trying to overturn the people's belief in the water god. Naturally, they failed, so they became a crowd of mice who never dared to expose themselves in front of the public. The dark shadow spider found one of them, then dragged out the entire organization. She had almost caught all the heretics in her first draft. Do you want power? The dark shadow queen asked and looked at these fanatics. Her fingertip crossed in the air, then a group of green slimes appeared in front of these people. Oh, they are the gods' graces. The legendary Sky Sword's will. The water god will die and we will rule the new era. In these people's hearts, Sheolongness, the Sky Sword's coming was the last hope to save this world from the evil water god's hands. They were revolutionists and rebels, they would overthrow the water god and rebuild the world. They could do everything in order to kill the god, because this will had been inherited from generation to generation and had become their obsession. Sheolongness, the Sky Sword was the key that had released the obsession in their hearts and the flame that had ignited the madness in their minds. Come on, praise and accept the coming new era. The dark shadow queen waved her hand, then, these green slimes jumped to these people's faces and wormed into their noses and mouths. Oh. Aw. I felt it. I felt it. This is the god's power. This is the great Sky Sword's grace. These men shivered and twitched, emitting inhuman roars from their mouths. As the dark shadow queen watched them with an enjoyable look, their bodies started to transform into monsters. They were not humans from now on. This was the price of power. After abandoning their human bodies, they obtained high-speed recovery capability, strong flesh and bones and demon bloodline. They wouldn't die even if their hearts had been pierced through. That's enough for them. After all, they can't bring me much more value. Looking at these men, no, green monsters now, the Dark Shadow Queen shook her head disappointedly. It would be an idiotic nonsense to defeat the water god with these human traitors, but, if she let them hide amongst ordinary people and sabotage at the right time, they could be of some use. However, only Shealongness, the Sky Sword, could lead them to win the coming war. The Dark Shadow Queen could feel that as more and more special slime units appeared, the speed of the Sky Sword's coming had become faster and faster. Once the Golden Slime King appeared, the slime network would be finally formed in this world, which also meant the start of the war between the Sky Sword's camp and the Water God's camp. Some people are coming. The Dark Shadow Queen sensed that a team of humans were getting close to her location. Is it here? A man asked with puzzlement. The next moment, a strange, snow-white creature walked out of the darkness and looked at these green monsters with a leisurely look. Yes, this is the Sky Sword's base camp. We will cooperate with the Sky Sword. Is it fine? Yunhee? A man asked. Leave it to me. Believe in the God who led us out of the mist. Another man promised. Soon after, a group of people walked to the Dark Shadow Spider Queen. Where are you from? The Dark Shadow Spider Queen sniffed. Their odors didn't belong to the Water God's world. They were outsiders just like her. We are this God's followers, and our God wants to cooperate with the Great Sky Sword. Their leader, Child Yunhee said. He measured the Dark Shadow Spider Queen with his questioning eyes. She is beautiful. Child Yunhee swallowed as he looked at the Dark Shadow Spider Queen's white skin and deep black eyes. He had been spontaneously seduced by the Spider Queen's dangerous charm. Agree with them and let them become your subordinates. A voice suddenly appeared inside the Dark Shadow Spider Queen's mind. It was the direct indicator from Shealongness, the Sky Sword. Is it your god? The Dark Shadow Spider Queen looked at the strange white creature with interest. She could feel a very special power from it. Yes, it's our god, the great Tlahuaskalpantakutli. As an evil god's apostle, Child Yunhee had actually become the leader of the Sword Palace disciples and started to preaching. Unfortunately, there is no alpaca in this world, otherwise, I can sacrifice them to enhance myself to an incredible extent. Child Yunhee thought regretfully. Very well, finally, I have some good subordinates. The Dark Shadow Spider Queen nodded with satisfaction. This strange white creature could be a strong external assistance of the Sky Sword's camp. Not only that, on a distant island, several strong hero-ranked girls were on a special training mission. They would also join the Sky Sword's camp after making their choice. Shealongness, the Sky Sword's will was indeed invading and changing this world step by step. Chapter 226, Escape from the Mist Island, Roar. The giant dragon's roar echoed between the heavens and the earth. As the overlord of Mist Island, the white bone dragon was having a fierce battle with its invaders. The bone dragon had died many, many years ago. Only the bones on its spine was still complete, and its wings, feet and tail were all mutilated. However, it still retained a third of its power from before its death. It wasn't a low-grade dragon like the male fiery dragon had been. It was a real, legendary dragon from the core area of the dragon god's domain. It could even annihilate a team of hero-rank adventurers if they dared to provoke it. This wasn't a hypothesis, because it had already happened several times. Many hero-ranked adventure teams, who came to explore the Eye of the Storm, had been swallowed after waking it up. Now, the people who were fighting against the Bone Dragon were the strongest partners of the White Lotus Sword Palace, White Lotus and Red Lotus, and Yunshi's childhood sweetheart, Hua Hua. After waking up, they found that they were trapped on the Mist Island. Finally, they encountered the Bone Dragon, then, the battle between them started and had lasted for half a month. The battle was really tough, because this dead dragon was the strongest monster in the mist. If you only considered its power, it was even stronger than any of the 3 high priestesses. In the water god's world, the bone dragon had almost become a symbol of disaster. Every time it walked out of the mist, it would wreak havoc in this world. The dragon had died many years ago. Naturally, it was hostile to all living beings. When Hua Hua and the twin witches appeared on its territory, it immediately noticed them and launched a rabid attack. Now, the battle had entered its final stage. Why is it chasing us? Tightly holding the Red Lotus holy sword in her hand, Red Lotus gasped with profuse sweating. Perhaps it's because it's too ugly. White Lotus' face looked pale. She was already exhausted. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Hua Hua shouted. It wasn't because of the bone dragon, but because of her instinct as Yunshi's childhood sweetheart, her jealousy radar. A strand of her hair was stretching and wiggling on her head. She instinctively sensed that something very bad was happening in this world, but she couldn't go to stop it. My little she must be in a big trouble. I should have found him and been beside him by now, but this blasted bone dragon has me trapped here. How dare you stop me on way to find my love? You will die horribly. Hua Hua lifted her sword and adjusted her breath, then said decisively, Shaolongness, I agree to your offer. I will join your camp and fight against this world's god. This world must hate us, then, such a world shouldn't exist. Obviously, the sky sword heard Hua Hua's words. Green dewdrops dripped down from the sky and permeated into Hua Hua's skin, restoring her physical strength and energy rapidly. It seems that the sky sword is satisfied with Hua Hua's decision, sister. We should also make our choice. White Lotus counted her fingers, trying to divine this world's secret. After coming into this world, they were always surrounded by this world's hostility. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been thrown onto the Mist Island and hunted by one of the strongest monsters in this world. The bone dragon had already firmly locked onto them. Once the bone dragon found them, it would rush them and attack them without any hesitation. To be honest, I don't want to make this decision, but it seems that we have no choice. Red Lotus wiped away the sweat on her forehead. In fact, when the twin witches and Hua Hua teamed up, they were not inferior to the bone dragon. However, the bone dragon had a very disturbing ability. No matter how many times it had been torn to rags, it could recover within a few seconds. With this ability, it was almost unbeatable. They had a strange feeling that the world's determination was trying to trap them on Mist Island, so it sent out the bone dragon. The only way to leave the island was the whispers they occasionally heard when they were fighting. I'm Shaolongness, the Sky Sword. Join my camp and become my subordinates. I will confer you the power to kill this dragon. However, Hua Hua and the twin witches didn't accept the Sky Sword's invitation immediately. They beat down the bone dragon over and over again, displaying their strong and horrible power. Unfortunately, the bone dragon could also revive over and over again. Apart from this, the island was surrounded by a very strong magical ward, so they couldn't leave the island easily. Now, they had really reached an impasse. I, White Lotus. I, Red Lotus. I, Hua Hua. After killing the bone dragon and witnessing it reviving again, the 3 girls finally made their choice. We choose to join the Sky Sword's camp. Very good. You are making the right choice. This world is a mistake. It shouldn't exist. And I'm the person who will correct this mistake. Shaolongness said. As her voice echoed in the clouds, countless green threads dropped from the sky, shredding open the mist and locked the bone dragon down on the ground. Leave. You will become the heroes to save this world. In the name of Shaolongness, I confer upon you the power to win against this world. 3 green gems dropped from the sky and were embedded onto the twin witches and Hua's foreheads. Instantly, they found that the strange feeling of being rejected by the world's determination disappeared. Is this the power of a sky sword? Hua felt the power on her forehead. Some flame-like emotion was burning inside her eyes. Finally, that strange feeling disappeared. White Lotus let out a sigh of relief. Because the world was blocking her, for the first time, she couldn't predict the future with the great circulation. Why? Why is this world so hostile to us? Are we really not allowed to come into this world? Chapter 227, The Mermaid Queen's Requirement. In the beautiful, sparkling shell palace, the Mermaid Queen gazed at Yunxi with an unpleasant look. Her beautiful big eyes looked aggrieved as if she was a bad-tempered child. Why did you choose the Lamias first? Yunxi embarrassedly looked at the queen and did not know what to say. The queen's charm was apparently different than the Lamia queen. Her skin was more white and her temperament was more pure. Apart from her fishtail, she looked no different from a human. She was a pretty woman, shining and sparkling. When she smiled with her mouth closed and looked at Yunxi with her innocent eyes, Yunxi even felt slightly guilty, as if he had just done something wrong. I know. I can't do that and last for 7 days and 7 nights like the Lamias, but I can do my best. The queen complained in a sad tone. Why? Why did she know that? Yunxi was dumbfounded. I had never told her anything about what happened between the Lamia queen and himself. In front of the sea demon's mirror, he was captivated by the Lamia queen's charm. They didn't have time to take their last step, but they had tried everything up to that. Once the Lamia queen let down her guard, she behaved like a young girl first awakening to love. She left a wonderful memory for Yunxi. Humph. I will let you see what a mermaid's secret potion can do. I can do everything the Lamias can do. The queen ground her teeth with a determined look. It was jealousy. Her cute face looked as if she was a girl whose favorite toy was just taken away by her best friend. After making up her mind, she took out a bottle of blue potion, then drank it in one big gulp. The next moment, something fantastic happened. The queen's fishtail gradually becomes smaller and smaller, until finally, her fishtail turned into a pair of human feet. Yunxi was shocked into silence. After becoming a human, the queen looked even more enchanting, even her light blue priest robe couldn't hide her beauty. Her ice-white skin emanated a flower-like fragrance. Her big eyes looked as clear as a pair of blue sapphires. Under the soft light in the temple, the queen's face was extremely beguiling. I can agree to your proposal, but I have a requirement. The queen gently blowed in Yunxi's ear. Do whatever you have done to the Lamia queen twice to me. I won't concede to her. From her childhood, she always lost to her best friend, the queen of deep-sea demons, the Lamia queen. The Lamia queen entered the hero rank faster than her, and became her race's leader sooner than her. Even the size of the Lamia queen's breasts was bigger than hers. Due to her racial superiority, humans trusted her more. Apart from this, she had never defeated the Lamia queen once. Although she was already the queen of the mermaid race, the mermaids liked romance, and she wasn't an exception. She looked forward to having a perfect lover. As a queen who liked to read human romance novels, she had imagined the appearance of her lover countless times. The man must be very strong. At the same time, the man would be very mature and reliable. The man must accept all her weaknesses and love her without reservation. The last and the most important thing is, her lover can't be inferior to the Lamia queen's lover. Yunxi perfectly met her requirements. There was only one deviation. he had become the Lamia Queen's lover first. Why didn't I realize it earlier? The Lamia Queen and I are the best friends from our childhoods. Naturally, she also likes the things I like. Our requirements for our lovers are the same. When such a perfect man came to her, how would she not want to marry him? Probably, when this man first visited the Celian temple, I and the Lamia Queen had fallen in love at first sight. As the water god's high priestesses, they had no resistance to this man who was beloved by the god. When they knew his wish, they all chuckled to themselves. However, I didn't expect that the Lamias would be the first. How could such a thing be allowed? This time, I won't lose. Therefore, I drank the secret potion of the mermaids to prove that I'm not inferior to the Lamias. I can do whatever Lamias can do. The queen repeated. She lowered her head with unease, ungracefully walking to Yunshi with her newborn human legs. Her red lips closely covered Yunshi's lips. Soon after, Yunshi's desire defeated his intellect. He held the queen's body in his arms tightly and responded to her enthusiasm with all his strength. This was what the queen expected and wanted. Her body trembled as her lips became hot. She fell upon Yunshi's neck and drank in his kiss. Chapter 228. The Mermaid Queen likes immorality. As if the sky and earth were spinning round, the Mermaid Queen was drunk in her own sweet dream. She had forgotten her identity as the water god's high priestess and her glory as a queen. At this moment, she only remembered the happiness she had found, only when she was in Yunshi's arms. Ah, is this what the Lamias experienced? I can feel the happiness emerging from the bottom of my heart. Is this what they call love? Her body became hot and her eyes became watery. She ground her teeth and groaned. Yunshi's hands roamed all over her body as his mouth kissed her forehead, eyes, chin and breasts. Ah! Through her clothes, the queen could still feel Yunshi's hot breath. She blushed, but she didn't resist him. Her body had become more sensitive after drinking the mermaid's secret potion. As Yunshi kissed her, a thrill went through her spine and directly into her brain. Her snow-white face was covered with a layer of pink. She groaned, unintentionally rubbed against Yunshi's hard body. Is this what you have done with the Lamias? The queen looked at Yunshi with her watery eyes and enthusiastically cooperated with his moves as her body trembled. And, although your reactions are much more intense, naturally, Yunshi remembered the Lamia queen's soft body. Compared to Lamia's special body structure, the mermaid queen's body wasn't that soft, but her skin was more tender. More intense, the queen emitted a seductive groan. She knew that Yunshi and the Lamia queen had not only done these things. They should have had a more intimate relationship. Then make it become much more intense, the queen entreated. Yunshi hesitated for a while, then responded to her desires. He gently and slowly held her head in his arms, then softly took off her priest robe, which was already in a fearful mess. After the last of her upper clothes were dropped to the ground from the queen's own delicate fingers, the queen of the sea finally exposed her snow-white, naked upper body in front of Yunshi. Yunshi didn't hesitate. Instead, he stretched out his right hand and put it on the queen's pure white leg. Yunshi's fingers stroked her smooth, silk-like skin, and the wonderful feeling made it hard for him to take his hand off. Yunshi's hand shook with overexcitement. He slowly moved his hand to her ankle and softly rubbed it. Her smooth ankle was so pleasing to the touch, making him like it so much, that he could hardly bear to put it down. The queen shyly put her white jade-like feet in front of Yunshi. With a sudden compulsion, Yunshi's warm palms held her left foot carefully, as if it would fly away at any time. No matter how long he looked at or stroked her toes, he couldn't get tired of it. Do you like my feet? The queen asked Yunshi with a very seductive voice. Yes, this is my weapon. I've drunk the mermaid's secret potion. It's my trump card that I can use to defeat the Lamia Queen. After all, the Lamia race doesn't have this kind of fantastic potion. At this level, I have a special treasure that the Lamias would never have. Yes. Yunshi fascinatedly looked at the queen's crystal white legs and her graceful body. After we have married, I will let you do whatever you want to me. It will be a much better experience than what you have experienced from the Lamias. The mermaid queen put her feet on Yunshi's legs and enticed him. Now, do what you have done with the Lamias to me. At this moment, Yunshi only wanted to cry, but failed to shed a tear. Really? It was embarrassing to remember what I have done with the Lamia Queen. Do I really need to do them again? In the crystal clear sea palace, they held and kissed each other as their souls went to a spiritual paradise together. The queen emitted cute sounds from her mouth, enjoying the happy time with Yunshi. Oh, he must be the best lover. The queen was drunk with her unethical game. Every time she remembered that she was playing with the Lamia Queen's lover, she couldn't stop the thrill of stealing another person's lover from going through her spine. Lamia Queen, I'm not inferior to you. Since you can obtain the best lover in this world, I can obtain him too. Do you remember? When we were still young and talked about what we would do when we fell in love. I will devote myself to my lover with all my heart and soul, the young Lamia Queen had said at that time. I will do whatever for my lover, no matter how shameful it will be, the queen remembered her answer. It must be a crime to steal my best friend's lover. However, why am I so excited? Chapter 229. The bell is ringing. The mermaid queen's cute sounds echoed inside the old palace. On the sparkling surface of the water, the waves of love were rippling. Puff! Puff! La 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 la! Oh 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 oh! The whispers which had appeared in the Lamia Queen's palace also echoed in the water, as if it was singing. The next morning. Does this mean the two high priestesses have all accepted my proposal? Did Yun-Kei already expect this result? Looking at the queen who was sleeping soundly beside him, Yun-Shi smiled bitterly. Except for the last step, he and she had done everything last night. I can't be an upright gentleman any longer. However, why did the Lamia Queen and the Mermaid Queen trust me so much? Even though I'm the water god's apostle, they still behaved too credulous, as if they were just two naive young girls. If I really was a scumbag, they would have had a very heartrending ending. Sorry. I hope I won't become a bad memory for you, Yunshi sighed and touched the queen's face with his fingers. On his white emperor mask, there were already 3 different hero-ranked auras inside 3 horns. The first was from Black Moon, the mysterious dark elf and the commander of his Mist Soul army. The second was from the Lamia Queen, the queen of sea demons and the water god's high priestess. The third was from the Mermaid Queen, the queen of the mermaid race and the water god's high priestess. It seemed that every time he had a hero-ranked bride, the White Emperor mask would naturally project the bride's aura inside one of the horns. Their power had indeed been overlapped onto Yunshi's body, and their Mist Souls had also become the hero units in Yunshi's Mist Soul army. I propose to you because I need your power. Can you forgive me? Yunshi felt guilty for his behavior. The stars above, is this all really necessary? Maybe Yun-Kei was right. I'm no good as a so-called emperor, because I don't have such a wild ambition. However, this world's god still chose me and conferred to me the false power of the emperor mask. I have to take the responsibility for that and move forward. I forgive you. I will forgive you for whatever you have done or will do. The queen opened her blue eyes and looked at Yunshi. She knew he was going to leave. You have the right to do that, and whatever you will choose to do, remember that I will always be on your side. This is a timeless promise of mine. Yunshi shook his head. She didn't understand. This isn't a real world. She, the Lamias and all the people in this world are just living in a dream. Maybe it is because this dream is too real. I had almost thought that I had really come to an old world and married these beautiful girls. Nothing is true, everything is permitted, Yunshi muttered in a sad tone. He helped the queen tuck herself in bed and embarked on his journey again. When I dream of a butterfly, do I dream of being a butterfly? Or did the butterfly dream of being me? The queen looked at Yunshi's back and showed a strange smile on her face. My God, the future you are looking forward to is coming. Puff. Puff. Yeah. Yeah. Wait, for a voice came from nowhere, echoing around the queen's ears with the fresh smell of the sea. In Celian, the city of water, the bell of blessing was ringing through the skies. After finding where it was from, people looked at the water god temple in surprise. This bell of blessing would only ring at a very special moment. The last time the bell rang was on the day of the Celian queen's enthronement. The bell just rang 18 times, which represented the highest blessing of the city. It's strange. Today isn't a festival, why did the bell ring? It rang 18 times. Anything good happened? I don't know. I didn't hear any rumors. The residents looked at the water god temple's bell tower in confusion. On the tall bell tower, the Celian queen, dressed in a white robe, was shaking the scepter in her hands with a gentle smile. The Lamia queen and the mermaid queen had each accepted the apostle's proposal. Naturally, it was worth celebrating. Perhaps this news would spread around the whole city soon after. Of course, people would know the apostle wanted to marry as many brides as he could. As the highest human priestess, she could clearly sense the coming of a brand new era. In the forests, caves and on the mountains, and even in the deep sea, countless slimes were gathering in crowds and groups and evolving. Now, not too many people had realized how powerful these little things would become, because these slimes would expose their fangs soon. The sky sword's coming was unstoppable. She, the Lamia queen and the mermaid queen had all known it. Because the water god was looking forward to the sky sword's coming. My God, have you found your love? Have you found your bride? If he means the end of this world, we will also accept this result, because he is the only chosen one. As the Celian queen whispered, a cloud of mist was flying into the city. With unease and befuddlement in his heart, Yunshi arrived at the top of the water god temple and landed in front of the Celian queen. Chapter 230, Her world, you are here, the Celian queen said gently and looked at Yunshi. She had known everything. The Lamia queen and the mermaid queen couldn't refuse the water god's apostle. They had strong power and determined will, however, they couldn't resist the apostle, who was blessed by the god's power. As the water god's most loyal people, they had fallen in love with the apostle at first sight. They were 10 times older than the Celian queen, but their experience in love was still as naive as 2 children. As for her, she was an innocent girl from many years ago. As a human, she had carried on the responsibility of handling affairs for a lot of years. She had never thought to marry anybody, because she had decided to devote herself to her belief from the first day she became a priestess. She was the queen of Celian and the high priestess of all mankind. She couldn't marry anyone. In fact, the water god never proclaimed that its priests and priestesses couldn't get married. However, all water gods' high priestesses were innocent virgins. Even though the water god didn't mind it, but the first high priestess never married during her life, and it had become an underlying regulation after that. Maybe it was because people subconsciously thought that their high priestesses should be virgins, so they didn't dare to go against people's will. The priestesses who got married would never be the water god's human high priestess. She was born in the royal family and changed her fate due to her loyal belief to the water god. As a girl of royal lineage, she had voluntarily went to be a village priestess, then got promoted step by step and finally became one of the water god's high priestesses. The Lamia Queen and the Mermaid Queen seldom interfered in government affairs. Therefore, she, the Celian Queen, was the highest-ranking priestess who was actually ruling the whole church. The reason why she could become the water god's high priestess was because she was the god's most loyal believer. Her divine magic was on the top 3 list of the whole world's history. Besides, her term of office was already over 50 years. No one would doubt if she could become the most excellent high priestess in the history. She also thought that she was the most beloved person of the god, because she was even conferred the water god's scepter and heard the god's oracles many times. She even knew that the god was puzzled about this world, because there were things that were out of the god's control. There were big problems that the god couldn't solve. In this case, she was convinced that she was the god's most favorite priestess, till that day, she saw that man in his silver mask. For the first time in her life, a strong feeling named jealousy rose inside her heart. Why? Why isn't me? Why is it this person? I'm the one who can help the gods solve the problems. I'm even willing to offer my life to the great water god. Indeed, water god's apostles had also appeared several times in the past, but they wouldn't appear in front of the public like this apostle. They were not humans but from an old race. The water god selected them to investigate the abnormal occurrences in this world. However, this apostle was a human, and he had the white emperor mask, which represented the highest authority from the water god. It was really unimaginable for her. This man was the one who was beloved by the god. After seeing Yunshi, her faith was shaken. I'm guilty. I shouldn't doubt my god. She had to kneel in the temple to purge her sins. How lucky you are. The queen held Yunshi's hand and kissed the back of his hand. What's the feeling like to be loved by a god? It must be a fantastic, heaven-like feeling. If possible, I really want to take your place, even if I will go to hell after that. Do you know how envious I am? Yunshi looked at the queen in surprise. For the first time, he knew the queen's real feelings. When he stayed with the queen before, he only felt a sacred aura from her. Her temperament was saintly, and inside of her eyes, there were infinite mists. They were the purest energy of faith, so her body wasn't flesh and blood any longer. Maybe her strength was inferior to the Lamia queen, but her divine spell was undoubtedly the strongest. Is such a jealousy strange? I thought that after I devote myself to the great world, nothing in this world could make my heart shake. Since my childhood, I always longed to come here and become the person who is closest to the god. Finally, at the age of 25, I achieved my goal of becoming a high priestess. For this, I left my family and abandoned my wealth. After losing everything, I finally came to this place. I had never regretted my choice, because I have expected all the difficulties from the beginning. The queen touched the old bell and remembered her past life. How many years had passed? What was it like when I was still a young girl? As the water god's high priestess, she was no longer a human after holding the water god's scepter in her hand. She had even forgotten her name and was only to be called the Celian Queen. She remembered it now. When she was still a young girl, she once ran and played on the city streets. She had also had a carefree childhood. It's strange. Why do I remember these things now? Maybe it's because I'm getting married. I will marry this child, the child who was standing in front of me with a clueless look. Chapter 231, The Door of Memories. When did I forget that I am a human also, instead of just the water god's high priestess and the Celian queen? She felt that it was already a long, long time ago, which was a time much older than all her memories. Why did I make that decision and arrive at this point? The door of her memories gradually opened. When she was 5 years old, she was just a carefree little princess. Her family was a branch of the imperial family, so she could have lived a charmed life. Elizabeth, you are one of the candidates for the next Celian queen. Elizabeth, if it's you, I know you can be the queen. Elizabeth, why don't you have a try? Why don't you want to be the queen? From a very young age, she always heard similar words from various people, which made her feel confused and angry. Why do I have to be the queen? Was I born just to be a candidate for the next queen only? What will I be after I've become a queen? The Celian city's imperial family was formed by the relatives of the first several high priestesses. As time went by, they formed a stable blood lineage. Because their bloodline conferred them great talent in practicing divine spells, most Celian queens were from this family. Although they didn't declare it to the public, but the whole world had regarded them as the Celian imperial family. Elizabeth was the first high priestess's name. She never married during her long life and devoted her whole life to the great water god. She was the person who was closest to the god. After that, once talented girls were born in the imperial family, people would call them Elizabeth, hoping that they could become the next high priestess. Her family was one of the imperial family's branches. As a girl who had great divine spell talent, she wasn't an exception. There were also a dozen of girls who had the same name, and they were educated by their families no matter the costs. I don't want to be the queen. Oh, now she remembered. At the beginning, she didn't want to be the queen at all, because she thought that people's fates shouldn't have been decided for them by their births. I just looked pretty and my bloodline talent is slightly better than others. Why do I have to be called Elizabeth and must be perfect in everything? The courses of divine spells were difficult. I wanted to run, to play, to enjoy a free life. At the age of 8, the dissatisfaction in my heart finally came to a head. So she ran away from her family. In order to have a free life, she secretly left the Celian city and decided that she would never come back. If to be the queen is the best future I can have, let it go to hell. Yes, I was so rebellious at that time. It's incredible. The Celian queen gently smiled as she watched the little girl in her memories. Wearing a big straw hat on her head and a pair of white leather boots on her feet, accompanied by her big loyal dog, she left the city. Where should I go? What will I do? She had had a plan in her heart. She could use her divine spells. Although she didn't want to be the queen, she wouldn't refuse to take this on for a living. She was only 8 years old, but she received a good education. Once she found a place of refuge and hid there for several years, she would be totally free. Yes, at that time, she thought that it was a very easy thing to do. After leaving her family, even the air could let her feel free. This is a wonderful world, I can achieve my goals easily. All people are living a common and peaceful life. Why must I accept the fate to be a pathetic queen? It's not fair. She didn't hate being called Elizabeth, but she wanted to be a free, happy Elizabeth. I will create a happy future with my hands. I will take control of my life and won't let anybody tell me what to do. At the first, the journey was happy. She met a friendly caravan, and several uncles and aunts who were very kind to her. They were the owners of the caravan. They traveled amongst the islands in this world, trading different goods to the people in different places. She gradually became a member of this new big family. She wasn't a pampered princess anymore, because there was only an Elizabeth, who was working very hard for living in the caravan. The more places she had visited with the caravan, the more understanding about this world she had. The water god's world was a very fertile world. It was a land flowing with milk and honey, and no one would die in hunger, because this world was a promised land that had been blessed by the god. People in this world all believed in the old and great water god. In all cities and villages, there must be a water god's high altar. The water god was a very great god. The more places she had visited, the more she realized it. The water god's human high priestess, which also meant the Celian queen, was more sacred and lofty than she had imagined. It was definitely not a position that could be inherited by a girl from a branch of the imperial family easily. The people who wanted to be the water god's high priestess would be tested many times. They must have great talent in divine spell casting and have reached the hero rank. After that, they would be allowed to hold the water god's scepter, and the result would decide if they could become the god's spokesperson. So the queen was so great a person. She was vaguely beginning to understand how special her bloodline was. Is the first Elizabeth's blood also flowing in my body? If so, it's not too that unacceptable to know my family wanted me to become the queen. However, I won't be the queen. I have decided to be a free-traveling merchant. This idea is much simpler and easier compared to being a superior queen. Chapter 232. That day she gave up on practicing the complex divine spells and reciting the head-scratching religious doctrine every day. After becoming a member of the caravan, she only needed to learn the knowledge of trading and enjoy the days of travel. In the caravan, no one could live an extravagant life without working hard with their own hands. Every time they passed by a village, she would record the village's special local products in her notebook. She imagined that one day, she would bring her own caravan back to the villages and trade with the villagers just like what the current caravan had done. It seemed that it wasn't an impossible dream. Compared to being the queen, this future was much better in her heart. As time went by, she had followed the caravan traveling around the world for a whole year, and learned how to buy and sell goods bit by bit. She was a smart little girl. 1 year later, although she was still only 9 years old, she was already able to buy and sell goods alone. Every time when the caravan stopped and rested in a city or a village, she would spread out goods to sale in her own booth. Although she couldn't earn a lot from this, she still felt happy, because she was indeed walking forward on the road to the future that she wanted to have. Before that day, she always believed that she could be an excellent merchant. Perhaps a few years later, she would be able to team up with the young children in the caravan and form a new caravan with them. And this was what the adults in the caravan were happy to see. They always looked at these brave young children with their warm eyes and encouraged them to do whatever they wanted to do. At the beginning of history, there was only one caravan in the whole of Water God's world. As time went by, the children in the caravan gradually grew up and left the caravan. They teamed up and formed new caravans one by one, because they believed that they were trying to build a better future for all of the Water God's world. People believed that they should give the credit to the great Water God. Because the Water God was blessing all living beings in this world, so that this world could be so prosperous and vibrant. However, the world wasn't always peaceful. Even in such a beautiful world, there were still horrible things out there. It was a sunny morning. Elizabeth was looking at the distant sky. Pink clouds floated in the sky as if they were some shy blushing girls, and behind the clouds, the sun half exposed its red face. After a while, the clouds faded away and the sun rose. Everything on the ground was basking in the bright sunlight. What a nice day. We should set out on our journey now. Elizabeth, let's go. For some reason, as everyone were bursting with happiness, Elizabeth suddenly sensed a special feeling. Her bloodline made her uneasy, as if it was warning her that something was coming. Unfortunately, she didn't understand that warning from her bloodline at that time. Soon after, the whole caravan embarked on the journey and slowly moved on to the safe route. However, about 2 hours later, the mist around them suddenly became cold and damp. As gusts of wind blew over the whole caravan from the mist, the sunny sky darkened as the mist became thicker and thicker. No! It's mist tide. That can't be true. The mist tide shouldn't come at this time. Run, run. Just leave the goods here. Run as fast as you can. Why is everyone so scared? Why is everyone's face turning pale? Unfortunately, the mist had surrounded the unlucky caravan. After a few seconds, the huge mist tide had swallowed the whole caravan. No. I don't want to die. God, please save us. At least, please save my child. The great water god, help us. The people reverently prayed, however, it couldn't save them. Mist tide was one of the most dangerous natural disasters in the water god's world. If the fertile land and the sweet fountains were the gods blessing the world, then the unpredictable mist tide was all the world's nightmare. No one knew what would happen to the people who were involved in the mist tide, because no one had ever returned from it. That day, after witnessing what happened in the mist tide, for the first time, Elizabeth realized how feeble and naive she was. The uncles and aunts, who had been considered to be her families, froze and was swallowed in front of her by the mist. An unknown horrible monster came with the mist tide and ate the people of the caravan one by one in front of her. Her friends, the boys and girls who had promised that they would form a new caravan and work around the world with her, cried and struggled in the monster's paws. However, their struggle was meaningless. The monster slowly and ruthlessly ate Elizabeth's friends, breaking all her dreams about her future. Elizabeth, if you can be the queen, I believe that you will be a good queen. Elizabeth, the queen is very special. Elizabeth, you are beloved by the god. The monster didn't eat Elizabeth. Although it stared at her with a great greed, but it sensed a very special aura from her, which made it hesitate for a very long while and finally left reluctantly. At that moment, Elizabeth finally understood what the queen's bloodline meant. Even if she had only a little part of the first queen's bloodline, she was still special. Maybe this was the reason why the monster was scared away. She finally understood how feeble and naive she was. After losing everything, she returned to her family. When she picked up the divine spell book again, she cried and blamed herself because she didn't study hard in the past. If I had mastered the strong divinity spells in the book, I could have defeated the monster in the mist and changed the whole caravan's miserable fate. After that, she matured overnight. She realized the importance of her bloodline and the fate she would carry on her back. This world wasn't as wonderful as she thought before. There were monsters in the mist and demons in people's nightmare. This world also had its dark side. Chapter 233, The Origin of the Mist Tide. Mist tide. It was a periodic, uncontrollable natural disaster in the water god's world. Since the beginning of history, mist tide had never completely disappeared. Mortals couldn't walk into the mist and look steadily at the mist. Once the mist tide rose, they could only pray to the great water god. Apart from this, there was no way to escape from the mist tide. No matter if it was human, mermaid, or lamia, no race could fight against the mist tide alone. Mist tide was unpredictable. It could appear at any time and any place. In the sky, on the ground, across the sea. Once the infinite mist gathered together and swept through the world, everything would drop into quiescence. Elizabeth once studied the mist tide from books and had had an in-depth knowledge about this natural disaster. Once living beings were involved into the mist tide, only very few lucky people would have a narrow escape from it. After deeply and thoroughly investigating all the tales, she found that they were all due to the water god's power. When they were enveloped in the mist tide, few survived. Of those that did, some were holding ancient family treasures, and some were born with a special bloodline just like her. A few survivors left notes, in which they recorded their experiences. From these records, the mist tide wasn't caused by some unknown monster. It really was a special natural disaster. Some survivors saw endless ice winds sweep through the ground, then their partners were frozen and turned to snow. Some survivors met the monster Elizabeth had seen, looking at the monster eating their friends one by one. Some survivors started hallucinating. They saw countless demon butterflies flying in the air and taking living souls to the underworld. The dangers in the mist tide wasn't always the same. Compared to having strong power, having strong luck was much more important when you tried to escape from the mist tide. Though hero-rank creatures couldn't escape alone from the mist tide either. The more she discovered about the mist tide, the more Elizabeth understood how ridiculous her dream of forming a new caravan and traveling around the world was. Every year, there would be over 1/3 of the caravans and 1/10 of the entire world's population that disappeared in the mist tide. Mist tide was like an immutable rule in this world, swallowing living beings coldly and mercilessly. Then, what can I do to change this rule? What can I do for a better world? Mortals can't stop the mist tide. If I become stronger and stronger and obtain the great water god's blessing, can I change everything? That day, Elizabeth lost her best friends in her dream. However, another dream was born in her heart. She knew she could accomplish her wish someday, because she had the first Elizabeth's bloodline. She wanted to change this world. She wanted to protect the people of the caravans. There were many, many girls in this world who could become a traveling merchant. However, there was only one, Elizabeth, who could become the water god's high priestess to protect people. After realizing this, Elizabeth finally found the goal of her life. I don't want to see mist tide happening ever again. My bloodline protected me from the mist tide, therefore, there must be a reason for my survival. While reading the record about the mist tide, Elizabeth moved her eyes to the water god's scepter, which could only be obtained by the water god's high priestess. If I become the new Celian queen and obtain the scepter, can the power inside it help me find the secret of the mist tide and change this world? She thought, then she did. After giving up her dream of being a merchant, nothing could stop her now. She came to a small village and became an unknown priestess. With that goal in her heart, she kept moving on her personal advancement. Compared to other Elizabeth, who were still being protected like princesses, she lived a hard life and put in 10 times the effort. Her talent wasn't the best amongst all the Elizabeths, but she was the hardest working one. Finally, she succeeded. At the age of 25, the previous Celian queen retired and all priestesses took part in the selective trial of the new Celian queen. As a black horse, she defeated all other candidates and ascended to the throne as the new queen. When she held the water god's scepter in her hand and shook the rings on it, she realized that she had obtained the key to change this world. Then, the first thing she did was to go to the most dangerous forbidden zone in this world. It was an island in the northernmost part of the world, where it was covered with endless mist and was known as the origin of all mist tides in this world. There, she witnessed a part of the mist tide's truth and the deathless bone dragon. Without any hesitation, she challenged the most horrible monster in the mist tide, the bone dragon. 7 days and 7 nights later, in order to escape from the bone dragon, she fell off into the sea and was saved by the Lamia queen eventually. It's a forbidden zone, even to us Lamias. Don't make the same mistake again, because there exists a huge nightmare and is the mist demon's habitat. Chapter 234, Her Wish. You are the only person who is beloved by the water god. Can you help me solve the biggest mystery in this world? If you can, I will marry you. I can agree to your proposal right now. After telling the silver-masked apostle her past, the Celian queen sat beside the apostle and looked at his mask. Mist demon, Yunshi touched his mask with a complex look. If I'm not wrong, the power in my white emperor mask is called infinite mist power, and it should be the biggest disaster in this world. Yes, I can sense the fear I had once tasted from your mask. As I remember it now, this world is blessed by the water god, but also needs to undertake a corresponding curse. No one could obtain a god's love without any reason. As a price, we must fight against the monsters in the mist. Maybe we can't defeat the most dangerous mist demon, but I want to know what it is. At the very least, we should try and find a way to stop it. The queen shook the water god's scepter with a sad look. The silver holy rings on the scepter reverberated with clear and melodious sounds. From that year forward, this wish was always hovering in her heart. It was her biggest motivation to be the high priestess and the deepest nightmare in her dreams. In her dream, she was still the 9-year-old Elizabeth and had to watch her friends disappear one by one. They were once so many vivid lives in this world, and now, they were just some cold words on the list of the mist tide's victims. Why? This is a world that is blessed by the water god. Why is there such a dreadful disaster? What is in the sea area that is covered with endless mist? What is the thing that is causing the periodic disaster? She thought that perhaps the water god knew it, so she tried to be the high priestess, because she wanted to get the answer from the god. She wanted to be the person that was closest to the god, and she thought that she could achieve this goal eventually. Unfortunately, she wasn't the chosen one of this world. Even though she had become the Celian queen and the high priestess, she couldn't go a step further. She wasn't the god's most favorite one, neither the Lamia queen nor the mermaid queen. It is the silver-masked apostle. He is the one who is blessed and beloved by the god. She finally realized that she couldn't achieve her wish by herself. Before that, she had wasted several days thinking about it. She was very confused and sad, and even started to doubt her faith in her god. Finally, she found an answer for herself. She wouldn't be the person who would solve the biggest disaster in this world, neither any other water god's high priestesses. Only the silver-masked apostle could solve the mystery and change this world. And now, this man was standing in front of her, close enough to touch. Is this okay? Is that all? Yunshi asked the queen in an uneasy accent. What a coincidence. The water god conferred me the unique white emperor mask, which could control the endless mist, and the love system of the stars also published a quest about the mist all over this world. That is to say, even if the queen didn't make this request, I will still go to find the mist demon and expose the secret in the mist. Yes, that's all I want. As long as you agree to my request, I will marry you, even if you fail to find the final answer eventually. I know I'm not as beautiful as the Lamia queen, and I'm not as gentle as the mermaid queen, but I will do my best to be your wife. As for the things you have done to the Lamia queen and the mermaid queen, I will try to get accustomed to doing them. Speaking of this, the Celian queen's face turned bright red. There was a very special interaction amongst the sea demon's mirror, the mermaid queen's relic and her water god scepter. Therefore, more or less, she had vaguely known what had happened before. If this is what you want, Yunshi took a deep breath and looked at the queen seriously. When he listened to the queen's past experiences, he felt the strong emotions in her heart. In other people's eyes, she was the unassailable Celian queen, but in her own heart, her life had ended that day. Her life had been frozen at the age of 9, when her friends were swallowed by the mist. In order to redeem the mistake, which actually wasn't her responsibility from the beginning, she did her best and finally became the Celian queen. No one knew it was simply because she wanted to know the origin of the mist tide and what took away her friends' lives. Her time had stopped since that day. At this moment, in Yunshi's eyes, she wasn't the queen but just a 9-year-old little girl, unaided and restless. I will change this. I will let the clock of her time turn again. Since I have been conferred the White Emperor mask, it won't be a problem to walk into the mist. Isn't it a nice-sounding idea to help the Celian queen achieve her wish in the middle of my exploration? I promise. I will do it. I will find an answer for you, Yunshi said with determination. The queen looked at Yunshi and smiled. Yes, this is it, the only solution to my befuddlement, weight and self-doubt. The only way to accomplish my wish from the age of 9. Thank you. Then I agree. I will be your bride. Putting down the water god scepter, the Celian queen, the 13th Elizabeth gently kissed Yunshi's lips. Remember, the promise must be followed. Chapter 235, Canary. For the first time, Elizabeth the Queen kissed someone. Naturally, her kiss was unpracticed. To her, this was a kiss, and also a promise which must be followed. She wasn't as perfect as people thought. Even after becoming the water god's high priestess, the obsession in her heart never faded away. I want to be the person who is closest to the god simply because I want to satisfy my self-desire. As expected, such a woman won't be beloved by the god. After realizing this, she gave up and put her hope on Yunshi. Since I can't do it, maybe he, the most beloved apostle of the god, can accomplish it. He had become her last hope. Sorry, I'm too cunning, but a human is such a strange creature. I can't be carefree like the Lamia queen and the mermaid queen. I have too many responsibilities on my back. Even so, you still want to marry me. Can you accept such a woman like me? The Celian queen's confession was totally different than the Lamia queen's and the mermaid queen's. Yunshi was like a mirror that had clearly reflected her weaknesses. No one is perfect in this universe. Even the supreme god also makes mistakes. Yunshi stretched out his hand and held the queen's frail hand tightly. Compared to you, I'm like a scumbag. I have had so many brides and I will still marry many more girls. As a human, I'm much worse than you. The Celian queen looked at Yunshi with a flabbergasted expression. What are you saying? You're at the hero rank and beloved by the god, it's your responsibility to marry as many brides as you can. In order to fight against the mist-tide, excellent men, especially hero-ranked men, should do their best to leave their bloodlines in this world. It's a basic rule of our society. Don't you remember? Yunshi was dumbfounded. Oh, I forgot this world's special environment. But I will marry 1,000,000 brides. 1,000,000 women. Isn't that ridiculous? If it's you, you have the right to do this. You are beloved by the god, so you are doomed to change this world. The queen held Yunshi's hands and put them on the front of her chest. Listen, these are my heartbeats. Looking at the queen with his scorching eyes now, Yunshi's fingers moved across her soft peaks. On the tall tower of the water god temple, in front of the old big bell, the Celian queen's body was covered in the warm sunlight. Her soft breasts were half covered by the white priest robe, but looked much more seductive. The queen looked at Yunshi with her shy eyes and asked, "Is this what lovers should do?" She stretched out her fingers and pointed at Yunshi's chin. Imitating Yunshi's action, her fingers slowly moved down. At the same time, Yunshi's fingers had moved to the queen's waist. The queen stood on her toes and looked straight at Yunshi's eyes. Finally, their fingers crossed together, feeling the hot temperature of each other's hands. Their faces were so close that they could even feel each other's breath. The queen's eyes became slightly panicked, because she was obviously much more inexperienced than the Lamia queen and the mermaid queen. After all, the Lamia race had a demon bloodline, and the mermaid race was a romantic race, but she, an aristocratic miss who was well educated, never learned any knowledge about love after 9 years old. Since she wanted to be a water god's high priestess, then love was totally unnecessary for her. Since she never even imagined such a thing, naturally, she wouldn't learn its knowledge. Who would know that the high priestess would marry the only man who was beloved by God? No, what am I doing? I shouldn't be doing this. Yunshi suddenly breathed quickly. It seemed that the experience before had a very negative impact on him. He felt guilty in his heart. I shouldn't treat her like the Lamia queen and the mermaid queen. She is different. In some sense, her understanding about love is no different to a 9-year-old girl's. She is pure, innocent, cute and clumsy, but has a wonderful figure. Plus her saintly aura, they are all the elements that can make men become beasts. From this angle, Yunshi could clearly see her cute, shy face and her perfect body shape under her white priest robe. He just touched the arcs of her breasts with his fingers, then he almost lost control of his desire. Don't repress yourself. I know, I should satisfy you at this time. The queen remembered the knowledge she learned not long ago, then lowered her bright red face. Please keep going. We have not married yet, but I can do whatever the Lamia queen and the mermaid queen had done. If I can't do that, it will be a dereliction of duty as the water god's high priestess. Yunshi swallowed as he looked at the queen's delicate collarbone. On the tall tower, which was in front of the public but also out of any person's sight, the saintly queen emitted a seductive groan, as if a beautiful canary was singing. Chapter 236, Blessing. The ring of blessing echoed above the city again. People looked at the old bell tower one after another, offering their prayers to their god. However, they felt slightly confused. This time, for whom does the bell ring? In the deep-sea water god temple, the Lamia queen gazed at the scene in the sea demon's mirror without blinking. Puff! Puff! Whoa! 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 In the crystal mermaid palace, the mermaid queen held the shell in her hands and listened to the sweet sounds inside it with a look of ecstasy. Puff! Puff! Yeah! 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 They knew the meaning of the bell clearly. They could hear its ringing. In front of the old bell, the Celian queen looked at Yunshi with her seductive watery eyes. Her face turned bright red and her lips were half open. Because Yunshi's silver mask was condensing and spreading water mist, her beautiful hair was wet. The long hair swayed at her waist as her head lightly shook. Which looked pretty attractive. Before too very long, her socks had been taken off and her slender legs exposed in the air. Under her white priest robe, they were a pair of little dainty feet. The back of her feet were as white as snow, which looked so delicate that they would be easily hurt with the smallest amount of force. Her toes were pale and slightly pink with a light fragrance of orchid. As she was kissed by Yunshi, her toes curled, her legs stretched, and her waist stooped. The sensual scene and her seductive groans had all been seen and heard by the Lamia queen and the mermaid queen. It was a special effect of the three high priestesses' relics. At first, it was designed for connecting to each other when something important happened. However, a strange resonance happened and the three relics had stayed in communication for a few days. Due to this, the three high priestesses had all known Yunshi's intention when he first saw the Lamia queen. Compared to the enthusiastic Lamia queen and the curious mermaid queen, as a human, the Celian queen had a special intellectual beauty. Even though she was in Yunshi's arms now, she still muffled her voice as if she didn't want to let Yunshi hear her cute groans. However, it wasn't a natural instinct that could be controlled consciously. After a deep kiss, the queen had almost become drunk. Yunshi lowered his head and kissed her lips, enjoying her sweet and smooth mouth. The queen half opened her mouth, seizing the opportunity. Yunshi's tongue pushed between her white teeth and went deep into her mouth, tangling with her warm moist tongue. As being guided by Yunshi, the queen gradually learned how to respond to his actions. Her small tongue tentatively touched Yunshi's tongue and learned the right way of deep kissing. Her face turned bright red and her eyes became watery. Finally, the beautiful queen couldn't suppress her voice and groaned, as if a canary was singing. Yunshi's mind had almost been absorbed into the queen's warm soft body. He stretched out his hands and gently touched her body, losing himself in the wonderful feel. Gradually, a special mark emerged out of the fourth horn on Yunshi's white emperor mask. The fourth hero-ranked mist soul was forming. Is this love? The queen's body trembled. The strange, exciting touch was much too strong for her. So she felt uneasy and confused. Her face blushed and her teeth chattered. Just for a while, she herself had almost become strange even to herself. Yunshi moved down from the queen's mouth. He kissed her round chin, crystal neck, snow-white chest, and finally went to her snow-white peaks. Through the snow-white priest robe, he opened his teeth and gently bit on her delicious fruits. The queen could no longer keep quiet and emitted a strong groan due to shyness. The queen's body quivered in Yunshi's arms. Her white jade-like skin had been covered with a layer of pink because of embarrassment. Her saintly expression disappeared, and her current shy expression could make any man lose his head. In the ringing of the bell, the queen took off her last clothes. The bell was ringing for her. It was a blessing for the most beautiful queen of all mankind. It was to celebrate her rebirth from her frozen time. Chapter 237, The Three Queens' Charm. When the bell of blessing rang, Yun-Kei was sitting in the Water God Temple's library and dealing with the research related to Yun-Shi. For the first time, she knew how painful the meaning of asking for trouble was. By hook or by crook, she still needed to pay for her actions. In order to defeat Shealongness, the Sky Sword, she concocted the expansion plan of 1,000,000 brides. At the same time, she had to help Yun-Shi select his brides. In the past few days, Yun-Shi had captured the 3 high priestesses' hearts one by one. As for her, she was busy at selecting brides for Yun-Shi, which also meant selecting subordinates for herself. In order to win the 3 high priestesses' hearts, Yun-Shi had put a great deal of time and effort into it, and she wasn't inferior in any respect. She hadn't slept in a few days. When the bell rang, she knew the reason much clearer than anyone. In addition to this, her sensitive ears could even vaguely hear the soft groans amongst the holy bells. That bastard! Has he really succeeded? Yun-Kei raised her head and looked at the tall tower in surprise. Her sense of hearing was far higher than ordinary people. Naturally, she knew who it was. It was the Celian Queen, the most honorable human in this city. As a woman who was thought as unfathomable in Yun-Kei's heart, she had also fallen into Yun-Hai's arms. The Lamia Queen had the strongest strength, the Mermaid Queen had the most perfect appearance, and the Celian Queen had the highest intelligence. Even in Yun-Kei's eyes, they were a perfect golden triangle. The Celian Queen was the youngest one amongst the 3 queens, but she was also the most stable and the smartest one. If Yun-Kei didn't hear her sounds with her own ears, she wouldn't believe that such a queen would fall into that scumbag, Yun-Hai's hands so easily. Did I underestimate him? His talent for capturing girls' heart is too formidable. Yun-Kei sighed in her heart as she remembered what that bastard had done to herself. This world is too unfair. While the bells echoed in the city, the girls from all over the world all knelt down beside the fountains and prayed to the water god. Is there no end of it? Yun-Kei's eyes were red and bloodshot from working non-stop on her plan. As the bells still rang with no sign of stopping, finally, she cursed in agony. I know you are so awesome, that you can even capture the 3 queens' hearts, but can you stop flaunting it in this manner? Many girls who are listening to the bells are still underage. If they knew the truth about the bells, it would leave a shadow on their lives. Yun-Kei had decided to hide this secret in the bottom of her heart forever. However, she still blamed it on Yun-Shi. This bastard, I won't see him again once I leave this world. Incidentally, Yun-Kei had written all Yun-Hai's crimes in a black notebook, over 7 pages. Are you satisfied? After putting on her white priest robe, the Celian Queen smiled, looking at Yun-Shi's red face with interest. Sorry, I was too impulsive. Yun-Shi apologized. No. That's what I'm here for. I must learn what the Lamia Queen and the Mermaid Queen had done, the Queen said seriously with a straight face. Yunshi looked at the queen with embarrassment. He just taught the queen a lot of knowledge which she would never find in any books. The queen's face also turned red. Compared to Yunshi, her behavior just now was too immature, like a green olive. That won't do. Her self-esteem as the strongest human high priestess let her make up her mind to do what was necessary. I must learn more knowledge about how to get along well with my lover. Before this day, all her knowledge about love was from a prohibited book, which she secretly took away from the library, The Shameless Demon and His 1,000 Daughters. Reality had proved that the book was indeed useful. However, she was too immature to respond to Yunshi enthusiastically like the girls in the book. Was my body good? I'm not bragging, but I'm called the most beautiful woman in the City of Water. The queen asked proudly. The flames in her eyes dazzled Yunshi's eyes. It is the strongest human queen's aura. Yes, you are perfect, said Yunshi. Even if she just wanted to take revenge on the Misttide at the beginning, however, with such a simple obsession, she finally arrived at the end and became the queen. Her charm had captured Yunshi's heart. She was mature and innocent, prideful and cute. The queen was different from all girls Yunshi had seen before. The enthusiastic Lamia queen. The jealous mermaid queen, who likes to steal other people's lover. The saintly and innocent Celian queen. For them, I will do my best to save this world. For the first time, Yunshi really started to learn how to feel about relationships in this world. Chapter 238, A Good News and a Bad News. Okay, I'm done. Finally, Yun-Kei finished her primary selection for the candidates of the expansion plan of A Million Brides. From the records in the library, Yun-Kei found something special in this world. The first several villages she had visited before were protected by the Mountain Lord, so they rarely encountered the Misttide. Due to this reason, they could live a peaceful life and she didn't see anything abnormal in these villages. In fact, the male-to-female ratio was very abnormal in this world. The birth rates of male babies and female babies were the same, however, most males couldn't grow up peacefully. In some areas, 80% of the males would die before they reached adulthood. It looked as if this world hated males. Yun-Kei sighed in her heart. Compared to males, females were far more lucky in this world. At the very least, they encountered the Misttide less frequently than the males. Perhaps it was because the water god's power was much easier to be inherited by a female's body. Therefore, females had it much easier surviving various dangers. So it explains why males in this world can marry a lot of brides. If they didn't do it, humans would have already gone extinct many centuries ago. However, if this situation carries on, humans will still die out sooner or later. Yun-Kei deduced this world's future and had a very bad calculative result. Those beings with the water god's power could survive the Misttide. Since only females could inherit the water god's power from generation to generation and males couldn't, the situation was very disadvantageous for males. The first, Elizabeth, was a good example. She never married during her life, but her blood was said to be the blood that is closest to the god, and it was inherited by the females of her family. Finally, the Elizabeth bloodline was born. After that, most Celian queens had the Elizabethan bloodline in their bodies, and the few exceptions also had strong water god power in their bodies. No wonder that the three high priestesses would agree to such a ridiculous plan. Yun-Kei finally understood how supreme the water god's power was in this world. The water god conferred Yun-Hai the White Emperor mask, therefore, he carried the strongest water god's power on his body. In order to obtain the god's power from him, probably the females in this world could forgive whatever he had wanted to do and done. Throughout the world out there, even the most prurient emperor didn't dare to marry a million girls. However, the people in this world were happy to see it happening. What a ridiculous world. Yun-Kei struck the table. I don't like this world, I don't like this result. This is not justice. Yun-Kei ground her teeth and clenched her fists. I will make this bastard pay for his crimes sooner or later. Yun-Kei, you are here. Yun-Shi looked at Yun-Kei in confusion. He thought that Yun-Kei looked different today. This was the first time Yun-Kei looked so angry. Sorry, I just lost my temper. Oh, congratulations. You have finished capturing the 3 high priestesses' hearts. You are really a competent scumbag. Yun-Kei looked at Yun-Shi coldly and sneeringly. Yun-Shi smiled bitterly. Didn't you tell me to do this? Why are you so angry now? In fact, the whole thing was still going well before I proposed to the 3 high priestesses. Any news about Shaolongnis, the Sky Sword? Yun-Shi tried to move his attention to their most dangerous enemy, the Sky Sword. Even though he had 4 hero-ranked fiancés, he still didn't know whether he could survive any of the Sky Sword's attacks. Sky Swords was the strongest people in the Sky Sword God's domain. Any of them could destroy a whole world easily. If Yun-Shi didn't get help from the Water God, he didn't think that he would have made it till now. I have a good news and a bad news. Which news do you want to listen to first? With her hands on her chin, Yun-Kei looked at Yun-Shi with a cold smile. Bad news first. Yun-Shi only hoped that the bad news wasn't too desperate. Okay, some people had witnessed the first Golden Slime King, which means that the Sky Sword's coming has entered the 3rd phase. Yun-Kei sighed. As expected, it wasn't likely to slow down the Sky Sword's coming by sweeping up the common green slimes. Slimes weren't only living on the ground. In the rivers, seas, and caves, as long as there were water and nourishment, the low-grade monsters could always survive and produce offspring. The only way to stop the slime race from proliferating was to find all their nests and exterminate them with a powerful army, but that was impossible. Then, what's the good news? Yun-Shi sighed with emotion. As expected, the Sky Sword's power was far beyond his imagination. Thinking of this, he habitually pinched the green slime bracelet on his arm. His water mist field automatically collected the slimes, condensed them and formed them into the bracelet these days. He had been used to wearing the bracelet on his arm every day. The good news is, we are not inferior to the Sky Sword's camp. Yun-Kei smiled with pleasure. I didn't expect there would be such a strong force in the Water God's world. Chapter 239, The Water God's Song. Under the command of the Water God's priests, the girls who believe in the Water God can form a special spell formation called the Water God's Song. If a Water God's Song was formed by 1,000 ordinary girls, then its power would be stronger than most hero-ranked monsters. The only shortcoming of this special spell formation is that its members must work in coordination, so they need to practice a lot for it, and if a member died, the special spell formation's power would be greatly reduced. Yun-Kei gazed at Yun-Shi and continued, this time, we have 1,000,000 bride candidates, and the 3 strongest high priestesses. Our biggest advantage is, they are immortal in your Mist Soul army. In this case, the Water God's Song's biggest shortcoming has been offset. As long as you're not dead, the Water God's Song won't stop. Yun-Kei said with enthusiasm as her eyes brightened up. The girls' bloodlines could resonate with each other, forming a power that was greater than most hero-ranked beings. Yun-Kei thought that if she didn't come to the Water God's world, she would never have imagined its existence. The Water God's Song was such a miraculous trump card, which was created to fight against the monsters from the Mist Tide. In Celian, there were 3 standing teams of 1,000 priestesses. In peaceful time, they would practice the Water God's Song together, and when the Mist Tide appeared, they would go to fight the monsters in the Mist Tide. Teams of priestesses. Does that mean, Yun-Shi had a guess? Yes, the three high priestesses are the three teams' leaders. It's really a good deal having their support. Even though she hated Yun Hai's shameless and salacious personality, she had to admit that he did the right thing. With their help, we can form a water god song that is over 10,000 people. It's really good that we have earned their trust. So, they are so good, Yunshi murmured as he remembered the three queens' faces. Are you ready? Yun Kei picked up the portraits on the table. They were the portraits of the most excellent girls Yun Kei had specially selected for Yun Shi, who would become the core members of Yun Shi's Mist Soul Army. Even Yun Kei had to admit that the water god's world had too many excellent girls. They were the hope and the future of this world. Again, Yun Kei sensed the water god's favor in Yun Shi. He really was being loved by the god and this world. Yes, since this is my mission, since I'm the only person who can do it, then, I will shoulder this mission's responsibility and do whatever I can do to save this world. Yun Shi could see that side quest 4 was shining in his Starchild love system. To love, Starchild. To witness and experience this fantastic world, then find the truth. Only in this case, will you know how to love. The plan will start tomorrow. Yun Kei put a pile of documents in front of Yun Shi. Although she felt sick to do it, she still did her best to help Yun Shi. For victory, she could agree to Yun Shi's proposal with her true identity and become the commander of the Mist Soul Army. In order to become stronger, she could accept and even make use of this world's ridiculous rules. Ah, a million brides. I will try my best. Yun Shi looked through the portraits. He knew he wasn't really going to marry a million girls. After he finished his quests in this world and left, they would all wake up into the real world and forget the things that happened in this world. However, Yun Shi wouldn't forget them. At the very least, they were here now. They were breathing the same air and feeling the same sunshine with him. He would propose to them tomorrow. This night, many people wouldn't go to sleep. In the Lamia Race's cave. Our queen has stolen the apostle's heart. She is too experienced. I also want to do this thing and that thing with the apostle. Fea wants to grow up quickly. The Lamias chattered. They had made an unanimous decision that tomorrow, they would propose to the apostle together at the ceremony. In the mermaid's palace, a group of mermaids gathered around the mermaid queen and listened to her story with the apostle. Oh, my friends, I'm sorry, but I won't give him to anyone else. We are best friends since our childhoods, but I won't share him with you. Forgive me. For love, I can give up anything. The mermaids really liked to experience sad love. Finally, in the Celian queen's family. Are you sure? Yes. Our queen has decided to marry the apostle. Our queen is the god's priestess. If our god wants to see that future, then our queen must respond to the apostle's expectations. The most honorable apostle has appeared. You all know what that means. All Elizabethans, play your cards right. The water god song will never stop. Chapter 240, The Little Rabbit in the Morning, Dang. Dong. Dang. The bell of blessing echoed in the sky above the city again. This time, the bell wasn't ringing for anyone, but for a thing that nobody had guessed. Apart from the three high priestesses, Yun Kei and Yun Shi, no one had ever imagined such a thing. Yun Shi opened his eyes. He turned his head and looked at Lulu. The scenes from last night still hovered in his mind. After having relationships with the three high priestesses, his self-control had been greatly reduced. Last night, he went back to his room and found that Lulu was sleeping in his bed. Vaguely, he took her as one of the three queens. When he realized that the feet in his hands were too pure and tender, which obviously did not belong to any of the three queens, Lulu was almost on the verge of tears. However, much to her credit, she didn't run away. She was frightened, but she still painstakingly kept her voice down. Her whimpering, and the warm feel of her skin had all worked together to make Yunxi to lose his mind. Her feet were small, but the feel was unbelievably good. Her white toenails were as cute as a row of pearls. As her two crystal-like small feet shook in his hands, her body trembled as if she was a poor scared little doggy. Her cute face was as sweet as fruit sugar, and her lips were as juicy as cherries. Yunxi thought that he could taste them all day and would never feel bored. The result was, Yunxi didn't sleep all night. Although he finally stopped before taking the last step, he had done everything else apart from that. Yunxi clearly knew that he shouldn't taste this fruit, but as guilt filled within his heart, he still failed to resist Lulu's temptation. As for Lulu, when Yunxi held her feet in his hands, she had already given up resisting and let Yunxi taste her lips fully. Before she had stealthily walked into Yunxi's room, she went to the water god temple's fountain and bathed her body in the medicinal herbal water. As the result, her skin was as smooth as silk fabrics, and also as sweet as creme brulee. The aroma of herb covered her whole body. Yunxi put down Lulu's feet and put his hands on her shoulders. His lips gently stroked Lulu's lips, then covered her mouth tightly. Their tongues tangled together. Lulu's saliva was as sweet as honey, letting Yunxi drunkenly suck her tongue for more. Symbolically, Lulu slightly resisted him. She softly put her hands on his chest and nudged him, but her innocent clear eyes had already closed and waited for Yunxi's next assault. Her long eyelashes fluttered as her body struggled in Yunxi's arms. However, how could her teeth stop Yunxi's experienced kiss? After a few tries, Yunxi's tongue had opened her teeth and tasted her tongue with abandon. As her body became hotter and hotter, finally, she was lost in the great pleasure and forgot everything else. As her toes curled and straightened, her legs subconsciously kicked in the air. "Oh, Apostle, don't please. I'm afraid," Lulu entreated. In the end, she wasn't a non-human like the Lamia Queen nor the Mermaid Queen, and she didn't have a strong will like the Celian Queen. Before she became a member of the Starwing Knights, she was just an ordinary girl. If she didn't go to the small village and take part in the Sword Palace examination, probably she would have married someone in her hometown. Most female swordsmen who couldn't pass the Sword Palace examination would marry someone sooner or later, because the fact of failing to be selected has proved that they didn't have a future in the path of the sword. Not everyone was as talented as Xiao Chao, who could step onto her own hero's journey with her mortal sword. After waking up in the water god's world, Lulu became a talented pharmacist and had found her own hero's journey. But in a natural way, she was still that normal, innocent girl. While she was really facing the most important moment in her life, she was so nervous that she could barely speak. Oh, listening to her entreaty, Yunxi finally realized that she wasn't like any of the three high priestesses. She wasn't a native of this world, so she wouldn't be charmed by the water god's power on his body. When she agreed to his proposal, she really thought that she would be his wife forever. No matter how many loves he had obtained through the three high priestesses, in Yunxi's heart, Lulu was still his first fiancée. She was still that pharmacist girl who bravely responded to his proposal first. "Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you." Yunxi's look, toned down as his desire had also drained away. He drew back his hands from her shoulders and put them back onto her feet. "No, it's just too fast. I'm not prepared yet. My apostle, can you give me more time?" Lulu blushed as her feet trembled in Yunxi's palms. Her shy face was so cute, as if she were a little rabbit that was going to be eaten by the big bad wolf. Chapter 241, Sailing Jellyfish's Robe. After enjoying the little rabbit, the new day had begun. With the young water god's priestess's help, Yunxi put on a long robe, which he had never seen before, but he thought that it must be very valuable. After putting the green slime bracelet on his arm, Yunshi looked at the mirror. He could barely recognize that man in the mirror was himself. This robe was made of a fantastic deep-sea creature's exuviation. It had light silver color, which looked to be a perfect fit with Yunshi's white emperor mask. The deep-sea creature was called sailing jellyfish, and it was sacred in this world, because all sea demons, including mermaids and lamias, saw it as a symbol of the great water god. Sailing jellyfishes would molt their shells every other 1,000 years. The mermaids would collect their shells to make robes. Till now, there were only 4 complete sailing jellyfishes' robes in this world. The first 3 robes were the Mermaid Queen's rochet, the Lamia Queen's campaign gown, and the Celian Queen's priestess robe. Although their styles and colors were different, their raw materials were the same. At this moment, Yunshi was wearing the 4th robe, the treasure made by a part of the rarest fantastic creature's shell. After putting on the robe, Yunshi could feel that his control of the moisture in the air had been enhanced by 30%, and the robe could automatically filter harmful substances in the air. Moreover, it seemed that this old robe could even increase its owner's aura. The 3 high priestesses' robes could make them look more attractive, and Yunshi's robe could make him look more handsome and mature. At the very least, when Yunshi looked at the man in the mirror, he had a feeling that he could trust this man with all his heart. The sailing jellyfish's robe and the white emperor mask were really a match made in heaven. Yunshi habitually rubbed the green slime bracelet on his arm, then stood in front of the mirror alone, waiting for the coming ceremony. He looked at his mirror image and murmured to himself, "Yunshi, you should know you are not fighting for yourself. You are fighting for this world, for the girls who have faith in you. Maybe the thing you are going to do sounds ridiculous, and it's indeed ridiculous, but there is a reason. Since you have chosen this way, you must hold on to the very end. You shouldn't be afraid of anything now." Yunshi clenched his fists. At this moment, on his white emperor mask, there were already 4 special marks on 4 of the 6 sharp silver horns. The first mark was from the mysterious dark elf, the commander of his mist soul army, Black Moon. The second mark was from the enthusiastic Lamia Queen, the queen of all sea demons, one of the top-class hero-ranked beings in this world. The third mark was from the jealous Mermaid Queen, the queen of the mermaids, the best harp entertainer in this world. The fourth mark was from the human high priestess, the ruler of the city of water, the holder of the water god scepter, the Celian Queen. After obtaining the 4 brides, he ranked his fiancée's power, and even Yunshi himself didn't know how strong he was now. Every minute and every second, he could perceive that his mist soul army was becoming stronger and stronger. Why did the stars create this trial world? What could he obtain from this world? He had a feeling that he would know the truth soon after today. Huff! Yunshi took a deep breath, then walked out of the door. The apostle, Lulu, looked at Yunshi with her gentle eyes. "Yo, give me some bread. I won't let you go before you give me bread." Ling Ling laughed. She still behaved so carefree. "Are you ready?" "Oh my, how many brides do you want to have? You have called so many unmarried girls." Meilon complained, but Yunshi knew that it was her special way of showing her care. Apart from the twin witches, Hua Hua, Hua Yu and Xiao Chao, all the girls of the Starwing Knights had gathered together here today. Yunshi understood that they should have joined the Sky Sword's camp. In fact, if the water god didn't find him directly and chose him to be its apostle, he should also be in the Sky Sword's camp now. Yunshi had never imagined that someday, he would fight against his unbeatable childhood sweetheart, Hua Hua. Unfortunately, from the beginning, he had no choice. I hope that Hua Hua will never know what has happened in this world. Yunshi prayed, although he knew that it was just an unrealistic fantasy. He knew that Hua Hua would definitely go crazy if she knew what he had done. And the thing he was going to do today would make Hua Hua explode like an erupting volcano. Apostle, everything is ready. Please convey your true love to them all. You will be pleased no matter what kind of bride you want. The young priestesses still didn't know Yunshi's plan. They looked at him with expectation. Several of them were Elizabethan. In order to let them serve Yunshi, their families had went out of their way to make an effort to help the cause. In fact, all unmarried girls in this world had been tempted by Yunshi's proposal ceremony. To the people in this world, the water god was their supreme lord. Naturally, the water god's apostle was very special and worthy of mentioning. Thank you. Looking at the priestesses, who had been selected to be his Mist Soul Army's future commanders by Yunshi thanked them in a relaxed tone. The last moment had finally begun. Go ahead, Yunshi. P.S. Volume 1 and Volume 2 of Starchild Escapes Arranged Marriage. https://www.amazon.com/dp/b076dd5h5 from C1 to C62 https://www.amazon.com/dp/b07dyd59q6 from C63 to C144. If any of the two volumes can enter the top 10,000 ranking before July 31, 2018, I will release 6 chapters per week. If any of the two volumes can enter the top 5,000 ranking before July 31, 2018, I will release 7 chapters per week. Also, if anyone buys and leaves a comment on the Amazon pages, I will post an additional chapter as a token of my gratitude. Chapter 242, The Girls Who Are Studying Hard in Celian. The Celian Queen, the Lamia Queen, the Mermaid Queen, their people, and the girls from all over the world, were gathering together on the square in front of the water god temple. For Yunshi's plan, the Celian Queen even ordered all the residents to pull all the buildings around the water god temple and finally built this special square. It was so large that it contained dozens of fountains and spread all the way to the seashore. Beside the sacred fountains, humans, lamias, mermaids, and all the girls of other races gathered together in groups based on their races. They chatted about this special ceremony with excitement. This world never had a ceremony called the Water God's Apostles' Proposal Plan, and probably would never have another again. Did you hear about it? The apostle is a very excellent, handsome and mature man. Yes, I saw him once from a distance. His silver mask is very cool. The human girls gleefully talked about Yunhai. Especially the girls who had seen the apostle before, but everyone who hadn't, were feeling jealous. Compared to them, the lamias looked much more leisurely, because they had already known the result many days ago. Therefore, when they looked at the human girls' nervous expressions, they laughed in their hearts. As for the topic they were talking about, it was slightly adults only. Feye, we will teach you the knowledge of being a lamia lady. The first night with your lover is very important. You must do your best. The apostle is protected by the great water god's power, so you don't need to worry about his body. The only thing you need to consider is how to enjoy your first night. Although the lamias were just some armchair strategists who had no practical experience, it wouldn't stop them from teaching poor young Feye what she should do during her first night. Oh. Feye blushed. Her tail wagged, espousing her excited heart. I'm finally learning the special wooing of us lamias. So this is the secret, this is what I should do. Feye, come here, this is the textbook. Looking around and making sure that no one else was looking at this place, the oldest lamia put a book into Feye's hands. The Shameless Demon and 1000 Princesses was the textbook's name. Looking at this precious prohibited book, Feye realized that her sisters finally considered her as an adult. In the past, when she found this book, her sisters stopped her and told her, "You are too young to read it." After opening the first page of this prohibited book, Thea had been shocked by the erotic illustration and the exciting description. A brand new world was slowly opening in front of her. Is this the adult's world? It's so exciting and tempting. Amongst the mermaids, a similar thing was happening. Those lamias are serious. Be quick, who has our prohibited precious book? We mermaids can't lose to those brainless lamias. It's our destiny to steal a lamia's lover. The mermaids had a natural sense of competition with the lamias. Although their queens were friends, they didn't mind trying to hamper the lamias. I found it. Be careful, it's a very rare book. The Shameless Demon and His Sister's Secret Garden. Yes, this is it. I heard that there were more books of the Demon series. These illustrations are great. They must be artistic masters' masterpieces. Even in the whole world, there are not too many books of this series. Little girls, come here and study. The mermaids said with enthusiasm. Hearing their conversation, even the girls of other sea demon races also stealthily looked at the book. Their races weren't as privileged as the Lamia race and the mermaid race. Most of their partners weren't even intellectual, because only very few sea demons could gain intelligence and know how to turn into human form. Based on their living areas, the sea demons in shallow seas would become mermaid subordinates and the sea demons in deep seas would become Lamia subordinates. They also found a similar book in their race's treasure cave. Just like the Lamia's book and the mermaid's book, it was also a real original book from a real drawing master. Is this the method of how humans copulate? That posture is embarrassing. Will we do the same thing every night after we marry the apostle? But my race can produce descendants simply by exchanging each other's genes. The sea demon girls talked with each other and passed around for perusal the book called The Shameless Demon and Monster Girls Game. It seemed that all the races in this world had a book of the Demon series. They were prohibited books, but also excellent beginner books. At any rate, from the girls' red faces and pounding hearts, these books were very effective. After a while, a special aura spread around the girls in the square. P.S. Volume 1 and Volume 2 of Starchild Escapes Arranged Marriage. https://www.amazon.com/dp/b076dd5h5 from C1 to C62 https://www.amazon.com/dp/b07dyd59q6 from C63 to C144. If any of the two volumes can enter the top 10,000 ranking before July 31, 2018, I will release 6 chapters per week. If any of the two volumes can enter the top 5,000 ranking before July 31, 2018, I will release 7 chapters per week. Also, if anyone buys and leaves a comment on the Amazon pages, I will post an additional chapter as a token of my gratitude. Chapter 243. A million brides' time moved forward, second by second, and would never stop for any reason. The moment of fate had finally arrived. With the silver mask on his face and the sacred robe on his body, Yunshi was clustered about by the 3 high priestesses as he stepped on the stage of his life. When he appeared on the stage, which was specially built for this ceremony, he caused a sensation to ripple throughout the city. For most people, this was the first time they saw a real apostle with their naked eyes. Even in all history, this apostle would be one of the highest ranking of the water god servants. Especially the young priestesses from the temples all over the world. When they saw Yunshi's silver mask, they couldn't help but put their palms together and prayed devoutly. Oh, is he the legendary apostle? He is young. But he looks so mature. Does such a great apostle really need to look for brides himself? If the girls who want to marry him lined up, the queue could probably crowd the streets to overflowing. Most people hadn't known of Yun-Shi's true plan. They just chattered with each other and looked at the apostle in surprise. Even though they had seen the apostle's portrait on the notice board before, many people still thought that the portrait was for reference only. Since this apostle even went to look for brides personally, his true appearance must be very special. Of course, it wasn't a big deal. Since he was the great water god's apostle, his appearance would be the smallest novelty in their minds. The apostles in the past were all elders who never cared about secular affairs. Therefore, this apostle was very special, and they would do everything to butter him up. For this moment, the 1 million bride candidates on the square were all the most excellent girls in this world. In order to respond to his wish, they came to this city from all over the world. Humans, Lamias, mermaids, and all the other races had all chosen their most beautiful unmarried girls. As the most predominant race, humans had almost sent all unmarried girls to the city. No one there was forced to be here. All these girls came prepared to fight for the right of becoming the apostles' brides. There were 1 million girls in this city. No matter how many girls the apostle would marry, there would be no doubt that most girls would come back home empty-handed. Therefore, the competition would undoubtedly be very fierce. This was the foremost thought in most people's hearts. However, they were ready for it. Come on, no matter what dire condition they would face, none of them would give up. What's the best bride in the apostle's heart like? The apostle likes a girl who is good at cooking, martial arts, divine spells, or... No matter what kind of girls the apostle likes, I won't lose to anyone. The girls all had so much confidence in their hearts. On the stage, Yun-Shi took a deep breath. Today, there were 1 million girls here. Although it was just Yun-Kei's ridiculous plan at the first, he didn't think that it could happen. Nevertheless, it was really allowed in this world, and reached this point, by going step by step. Now, he would perform the most important step in the whole plan. Thank you for coming, thank you for listening to my words. I say to you today, my friends, that I have a dream, a very special, even a strange dream. Today is a special day for me. Yun-Shi stretched out his hands. The green slime bracelet turned into a green light and circled around on his fingertip. I am looking for my bride, and I will sign a contract of never being separated with her. From today on, I will love her and take care of her. Where she goes, I go. If I leave, she leaves. I will love her, comfort her, respect her, protect her as my own. For better for worse, for richer for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love, honor, and cherish, till death do us part, we will never be separated. As long as the sun will still rise, I will offer you the warmest home. If possible, can you all agree to my proposal? The girls who are listening to my words, please make your choice. A continuous mist spread around from Yun-Shi's white emperor mask. At the same time, from the fountains and from the streams, there was also a continuous mist rising into the air. This was an unprecedented proposal in this world's history. 1 to 1 million. As his water mist field spread in the air, Yun-Shi had a mental bond with all the girls on the square. There was a fine, transparent thread of mist amongst all the girls and himself. They were the strings made by Yun-Shi's white emperor mask, which would change the whole world forever. Listening to Yun-Shi's marriage proposal, the 3 high priestesses looked at each other and smiled. The Lamia queen stepped forward first. The high priestesses were the strongest beings in this world. Apart from this, they also had the best singing voices. The Lamia queen faced the public and started singing her song of love. The song was about a princess meeting a prince, and its name was Dark Princess. I wandered in the darkness. I once dreamed of a whisper, now I see the road. Is that my fate? At the very least, at this moment, let me open my arms for you. This fantastic dream, my downtrodden wings, I will lower my head in the darkness, awaiting your coming. My tears wash my hands, my lips quiver in the darkness. Come to me. Look at me. Treat me as the finest princess in all the universe, my prince. Though I be covered with cuts and bruises, I will never betray our love. As long as I can stay beside you, darkness and sadness could even become warm. This searing yearning will witness our love. Our love will turn into light, ignite the darkness and achieve immortality. The princess was imprisoned on the tall tower day after day and year after year. She waited for a miracle. In the dark flames, she was finally saved by the prince from the endless cycle of time. This was the Lamia Queen's love song for Yunxi. The Lamias and other girls of deep-sea races raised their hands. The threads amongst them and Yunxi shook and turned into one beautiful crystal ring after another. They were the tokens of their love, they were these girls' answers. The next is my turn. The Mermaid Queen also stepped forward and began to sing. Compared to the Lamia Queen's song, the rhythm of her song was more sad, which was a perfect fit for the mermaid's romantic aura. The song was called The Lost Petal. My lover flew away from my hands along with the wind. It rolled in the air and flew to the sky, disappearing from my sight. The tree was engraved by the facts of our lost future. The spring has changed the world, the death of fall is coming. The flowers in full bloom are much more beautiful than the wind. Even if their petals have been destroyed, even if they have been forgotten, I will still follow the traces, looking for the fragments of my yearning. I collect the petals carefully, waiting for the next spring. My lover, when will you come from my dream and hug me again? Answer me if you can hear my song. Come back to me if you can feel my heartache. My lover, I will always be waiting for you. It was a song of a broken-hearted girl. That was sad, but with hope, filled with uneasy expectations. More than 30% of the girls cried after listening to its rhythm. Then, they raised their hands. Those girls who had hesitated before, finally gave Yunxi their answers. 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, the number of his brides was increasing rapidly, in Yunxi's Starchild love system. While the last and the most venerable queen, the best-known Celian queen came on the stage, the atmosphere reached its highest point. The Celian queen was just a human, naturally. Her voice couldn't be as charming as the Lamia queens or the mermaid queens, because as sea demons, their voices could go beyond the limit of mankind's hearing. Therefore, she must be more empathetic and keep her focus on the song, so that she could touch people's hearts with her voice like the other two queens. Her song was called The Rhythm of Love. My past dreams wandered in the night's arms, my cute lover, help me look for my road. If this is our fate, let's go on our way. In my eyes, you are the sunlight through the leaves. You bring me courage and smiles, I can feel the transcendent love in your body. I smile under the sky, because you are with me. My song is the token of my love, and I believe that you can hear my feelings across time and space. Happiness, sadness, worry, they are the rhythms of love. Any time, any place, my song will be with you. I was born for you, I'm singing for you. The rhythm is flowing in my heart, listen to it, my love. 500,000, 600,000, 700,000. In the sound of the Celian queen singing, a great amount of power flocked into Yunxi's body. He could clearly feel the terrible energy waves through the mask on his face. Finally, the harvest time had begun. He had created this miracle with his own hands. With the three high priestesses' help, Yunxi reached an achievement that perhaps no one had ever achieved in the whole universe. 1,000,000 brides. As being surrounded in the countless mist, one beautiful girl after another raised their hands with expectations in their hearts. I really am a liar. Feeling the powers that were flowing into his body, Yunshi didn't look happy, but mocked himself. Yunkei's plan had a drawback that it would take Yunshi too much time if he proposed to the girls one by one. Therefore, they finally decided to let Yunshi propose to the 1,000,000 girls on the square together. In order to accomplish this, they had paid with a great deal of effort. And now, they finally got their efforts rewarded. This was Yunkei's expansion plan of 1,000,000 brides. Especially tailored for Yunshi. Chapter 244, You Will Be the Emperor. This day had become the most fantastic day in this world's history. In front of the old water god temple, countless fountains sent water columns skyward from underground. Voluminous mist spread throughout the city, making it the City of Mist. In the water mist field, 1,000,000 beautiful girls were making their answer. I'm willing to take this honor. I'm willing to be your bride. Thank you for choosing me. I will be your power in return for your love. I swear to the great water god, I will be the apostle's wife forever. The girls' voices echoed through the sky, hovering around the old city of water like 1,000,000 beautiful melodies. One white hand after another raised in the air with expectation and longing in these girls' hearts. One crystal ring after another appeared on these beautiful girls' fingers. They were the proofs of their oaths, and the signs of their accomplished marriage contracts. They accepted Yunshi without reservation. When even Yunshi himself didn't believe that he would succeed, their trusts made this plan come true. There were over 1,000,000 girls who had arrived at this city, and there were only dozens of girls who refused his proposals. Yunshi could sense a very weird aura from these girls' bodies. As they disappeared suddenly and mysteriously, Yunshi understood who they were. Sheolongness, the sky sword's coming had reached the last phase. Her will could even interfere with the reality now. The girls who just disappeared suddenly should be the slimes who had transformed into their human forms. Apart from these girls, all girls on the square said, I'm willing to marry you, to Yunshi. Their faith in the water god and the 3 high priestesses' songs impressed them. The girls in the water god's world were all innocent and cute. None of them doubted whether Yunshi was lying. In order to save this world, I have to deceive them. Then, am I wrong or is it this world's fault? Yunshi looked puzzled. He thought that he understood the stars' quests better. Love is wonderful and sweet. He never doubted his love to Huahua. However, his understanding about this world and love had been changed. Loves were different. There was everlasting love of couples in this universe. There was loyal love to the god in this universe. There was jealous and uneasy love in this universe. Love wasn't a single property. It could be rendered as all kinds of emotions. Marriage wasn't one-to-one in this world just like the custom in the sky sword god's domain. Instead, it was one-to-many. He had married 1,000,000 brides in this world. If even such a love was allowed in this world, then what couldn't be accepted? It seemed that the stars were using this method to teach him what you should accept all kinds of love means. However, the love in the eyes of the stars was too different from the love in humans' eyes. Marry 1,000,000 girls. It's just ridiculous. Yunshi felt as if he was dreaming when this unprecedented miracle came true. Well, from now on, you will take responsibility for us Lamias. Of course, as their queen, you should care for me more, but it doesn't mean you can be bad to the rest of your wives. The Lamia queen looked cheerful. After losing the sailing jellyfishes over a century ago, finally, the Lamia race embraced hope again. The Lamias are too pushy, but I'm different. Don't forget to look for me when you are free. The mermaid queen teased. The aura is strange, but not bad, isn't it? The Celian queen coughed. Obviously, she had noticed the strange aura between the Lamia queen and the mermaid queen. From now on, we will put the fate of this world in your hands. You have been accepted by the 3 queens and have the White Emperor mask. Starting from today, you will become the emperor of the entire world. What? Yunshi was dumbfounded. You have married 1,000,000 girls. If you aren't the emperor, then who can be the emperor? The Lamia queen stood to Yunshi's right. Yes, if you aren't the emperor, it would be very strange. Not giving the slightest concession, the mermaid queen stood to Yunshi's left. As the leader of mankind and the Celian queen, I witnessed the birth of the emperor of the world. The Celian queen walked to Yunshi. She half knelt and kissed Yunshi's hand. As the leader of the deep sea demons and the Lamia queen, I witnessed the birth of the emperor of the world. The Lamia queen also lowered her head and kissed Yunshi's hand. As the leader of the shallow sea demons and the mermaid queen, I witnessed the birth of the emperor of the world. Finally, the mermaid queen also knelt and offered her blessing to Yunshi. The bell of blessing resounded across the skies. P.S. Volume 1 and Volume 2 of Starchild Escapes Arranged Marriage. https://www.amazon.com/dp/b076dd5h5 from C1 to C62 https://www.amazon.com/dp/b07dyd59q6 from C63 to C144. If any of the 2 volumes can enter the top 10,000 ranking before July 31, 2018, I will release 6 chapters per week. If any of the 2 volumes can enter the top 5,000 ranking before July 31, 2018, I will release 7 chapters per week. Also, if anyone buys and leaves a comment on the Amazon pages, I will post an additional chapter as a token of my gratitude. Chapter 245. The Broken-Hearted Boys. When the unprecedented White Emperor was born, on a hill outside of Celian, the Dark Shadow Spider Queen was looking at the sacred city from a distance. He is awesome. He deserves to be my thing. The slimes the Dark Shadow Spider Queen control had increased to 10 times more than before. Apart from these common green slimes, she also had dozens of high-class slimes, who just escaped from the city. These high-class slimes look like humans. Because there were a lot of girls of deep-sea races in this city, so they successfully sneaked into the ceremony like fish in troubled waters. Unfortunately, their identities were exposed, because their intelligence was too low. They didn't know how to respond to Yunshi's proposal. Seeing this, the Dark Shadow Spider Queen had to order them to retreat. He can even successfully propose to 1,000,000 girls. I want him more. The Dark Shadow Spider Queen licked her lips with a burning desire. That man could make yummy food from nothing and had excellent governability. Although she just took a glimpse to Yunshi through the slime's eyes, she could still sense the sweet smell of his body. Humph. He is just a phony publicity seeker. Such a salacious man isn't worth a hill of beans. Child Yun, he said in a contemptuous tone. However, the burning emotion called jealousy in his eyes had exposed what he was really thinking. I won't obtain the things I want with blandishments. I will rob all things with my strength. Child Yun, he ground his teeth. Even if he has succeeded marrying the 1,000,000 girls, then what? Can he really possess them all? Eventually, he is just a fribble, a liar. Yes, even if he has 1,000,000 brides, they can do no help for him. Yes, I have obtained the evil god Tlahuaskalpantakutli's power. How will I be inferior to such a liar? Once I accomplish the blood sacrifice to the evil god, I can trample him as easy as stepping on an ant. It's too ridiculous to marry 1,000,000 girls. In the Sky Swords camp, the young boys complained. There must a hole in this guy's head. How can he himself satisfy 1,000,000 brides? What the hell is he doing? Some people got exasperated. Oh, I like that priestess. She also accepted that man's proposal. She must have been hoodwinked. Some people were utterly disheartened. Burn. 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 Kill. 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 Some people went crazy with jealousy. They had held torches and sickles in their hands. Before the battle between the two camps started, the young boys of the Sky Swords camp had had a common goal. Catch that pervert called White Emperor and cut him into 1,000 pieces. From the bread-making ability he had showed in the small village, this man couldn't be a native but a person from another world, just like them all. Because this world didn't have a food called bread, not even the making method. When they arrived at this world, they were placed on an island with monsters everywhere. They were hungry and thirsty. Fortunately, Child Yun he summoned the evil god Tlahuascalpantacutli and led them so they could leave the island. Otherwise, they would all have starved to death. As for this man, he first arrived at this world and then immediately became the god's apostle. He was respected everywhere. Even when he said, "I want to marry 1,000,000 girls," the whole of this world still revolved around him. What had they experienced in this world? Death trials. Tall bird, blood-eye crow, red hound, blue hound, deerclop. They would never know what kind of monster would rush out from the mist and take away their lives. Even if they died, they would revive in a random place on the island. The countless deaths and rebirths had tortured them in hell. Finally, when Child Yun he told them that they could escape from this painful cycle of mortality once they believed in the evil god Tlahuascalpantacutli, they all accepted it. After that, they joined the evil god's camp and escaped from the deadly island. Then they cooperated with the Sky Swords camp and finally became the Dark Shadow Spider Queen's collaborators. Remembering the miserable experience they had suffered, and the handsome treatment the White Emperor had enjoyed, these young boys only wanted to cry. We are all outsiders to this world. Why are you the only one who can be treated with kindness? If this world is a trial, then we must be experiencing the hell mode, and the White Emperor is experiencing the easy mode. No, he is like playing the easy mode with a cheat. Even now they could also vaguely hear the girls laugh from a distance. Oh, what a beautiful ring. Am I not dreaming? A young priestess looked at her hand in surprise and pinched her hand. Incidentally, she was one of the young boy's dream lover. No, I can't feel pain from my hand. Am I really dreaming? No, let me pinch my hand again. Of course you don't feel pain. You are pinching my hand. The young priestess partner complained. No, I want to die. I have never been so angry in my life. I will take revenge on him. I will sell myself to the great evil god Tlahuascalpantacutli. I will take my dream lover back. On the hill, the young boys cried and cursed their unlucky fate, wailed like ghosts and howled like wolves. P.S. Volume 1 and Volume 2 of Starchild Escapes Arranged Marriage. https://www.amazon.com/dp/b076dd5h5 from C1 to C62 https://www.amazon.com/dp/b07dyd59q6 from C63 to C144. If any of the two volumes can enter the top 10,000 ranking before July 31, 2018, I will release 6 chapters per week. If any of the two volumes can enter the top 5,000 ranking before July 31, 2018, I will release 7 chapters per week. Also, if anyone buys and leaves a comment on the Amazon pages, I will post an additional chapter as a token of my gratitude. Chapter 246, embark on the road the next 3 days, the people of the whole city sank to immerse up and down in the atmosphere of the merriment. After accepting Yunshi's proposal, the girls from all over the world started to decorate the old city of water with all their enthusiasm. Because there were really too many brides, the betrothal gifts were so many that they could even fill dozens of palaces. These girls laughed and sang the songs they learned from the 3 high priestesses, expressing their joyful feeling. Looking at these girls from the top of the tall bell tower, Yunshi showed a thoughtful expression on his face. This moment, he was thinking about the truth of the universe and the theory of everything. Come on, stop pretending. I know you have already grinned from ear to ear in your heart. But I tell you, really, don't do anything to them. Yun-Kei sneered in a cold tone. She stared at Yunshi as if she was looking at a pile of garbage. They are all good girls. It's too pity to let them fall into your hands. Yes. I don't deserve to have them. I'm already very satisfied to have their mished souls. Yunshi shrugged his shoulders. He didn't sit idle all day in the past 3 days. Instead, he studied how to command his mished soul army with all his heart and soul. With the help from the 3 high priestesses and Yun-Kei, he finally figured out something. I'm really curious about you. Although I'm the one who suggested you to do it, this plan shouldn't have been accomplished so perfectly. Who are you? Why can you do this? Yun-Kei questioned Yun-Shi with confusion in her eyes. The more she knew the man who called himself Yun-Hai, the more surprising features she could find in him. She did propose the expansion plan of 1,000,000 brides, however, she didn't really think that the number of Yun-Shi's brides could reach 1,000,000. Is he really a human? Even if he is a god, it's hard to believe that he can achieve such a miracle. What charm does he have? How could he capture 1,000,000 young girls' hearts so easily? This was so ridiculous. She had no theory to explain it. As an elite assassin of the 10 Leaves Alliance, she had seen too many things and experienced too many battles. However, she still hadn't saw anyone who was similar to this Yun-Hai. Probably it's because there is a great will that is blessing me, Yun-Shi referred to the stars. After all the things that had happened were parts of the stars' plan. He was the only person who knew that this world was just a trial for himself. Humph. It's difficult to understand why the water god likes you so much. Of course, Yun-Kei didn't know the existence of the stars. She thought that the great will Yun-Shi said before meant the water god. About this, I don't understand either. Yun-Shi also felt strange about this. Why would the water god find him immediately after he left the bonfire? Why would the water god confer him the White Emperor mask without hesitation? Everything started from that moment. At the beginning, he planned to join the Sky Swords camp and fight together with his childhood sweetheart, Hua, but now, he had stepped on this road of no return. Whatever, but you shouldn't have any more contact with these girls. Now, it's time to leave this city, it's time to save this world. Yun-Kei stood upright with strong determination in her eyes. Everything she did was for this moment. She didn't mind being called unscrupulous and ruthless, because she had judged it with the balance of her justice. Compared to finding the most excellent bride for the water god, the expansion plan of 1,000,000 brides was more effective. Now, Sheolongness, the Sky Sword's coming had reached its last phase, and she had also found out where the Sky Sword's base camp was. The Island of Mist. It was the scariest place in this world. Even the 3 high priestesses were prohibited to go to there. At the same time, it was also the most chaotic area in this world, where it was easy to summon living beings into this world from outside worlds. According to what she had known from the Lamias and the mermaids, they had seen a lot of living beings suddenly appearing on the island. Although they were also from other worlds, they had chosen the Sky Swords camp, and the Island of Mist had become the location of the Sky Swords camp. Yes, I will fight for them. I want to do something for these girls who believe in me. Yunshi slowly stood up and looked at the city together with Yun Quebec. Since I have given them my promise, I must protect them and create a beautiful homeworld for them. Yun Kei looked at Yunshi in surprise. Maybe this man isn't totally helpless. However, it won't change the fact that he is still too salacious. Let's go. Maybe I can attend your wedding when we come back. It must be very pleasing to marry 1,000,000 girls, don't you think so? Yun Kei teased. Yunshi gave her a quizzical look. Why do your words make me have an ominous presentiment? As white mist rose from the ground, Yunshi and Yun Kei embarked on their road. The next, they would face the strongest being in the Sky Sword God's domain. In the Water God Temple, the three high priestesses watched Yunshi and Yun Kei on the mirrored surface of the Sea Demon's mirror. I'm worried about them. Why don't we go with them? The Lamia Queen looked anxious. Yes, as his bride, I should fight shoulder to shoulder with him at this moment. The Mermaid Queen said with a bad feeling in her heart. She could feel a special atmosphere between Yunshi and Yun Quebec, don't doubt his choice. It's a forbidden area to us all. Besides, we have offered him our powers, so we should trust him. We should believe that he can return in peace and live happily with us forever after that. The Celian Queen shook the water god's scepter with a tender look. On the tall tower, the bell rang again, blessing for the two apostles. P.S. Volume 1 and Volume 2 of Starchild Escapes Arranged Marriage. https://www.amazon.com/dp/b076dd5h5 from C1 to C62. https://www.amazon.com/dp/b07dyd59q6 from C63 to C144. If any of the two volumes can enter the top 10,000 ranking before July 31, 2018, I will release 6 chapters per week. If any of the two volumes can enter the top 5,000 ranking before July 31, 2018, I will release 7 chapters per week. Also, if anyone buys and leaves a comment on the Amazon pages, I will post an additional chapter as a token of my gratitude. Chapter 247, The Frightening Army. After leaving the Celian city, Yunshi and Yun Kei flew all day and all night and finally arrived at the Forbidden Zone, where the Celian Queen was severely injured and returned with disappointment. The mist is thick. Is this the source of all mist tides in this world? Looking at the huge wall of mist from hundreds of meters away, Yun Kei could sense a huge evil intention inside it. Unlike the common mist all over the water god's world, the mist here was cold and suffocating. She could imagine what a disaster it would become if the mist here spread around this world. From the countless records about mist tide, Yunshi had seen countless names on the bloody death list. The people who had survived the mist tides could even be counted by bending the fingers. Especially males, there was barely no man who had survived any mist tide. The mist here is strange. As the White Emperor Mask's owner, Yunshi could control all mists in this world. Naturally, he sensed something unusual in the mist. The mist not only contained the water god's smell. There was something else inside it. From the very first day Yunshi came to this world, he could feel the water god's love for this world. There were sweet spring waters and delicious fruits all over this world. The land so was fertile, where anyone could feed the population 10 times or more. If there wasn't any mist tide in this world, the water god's world could be more beautiful and peaceful. I have a bad feeling. Maybe we are still too slow. Yun Kei's sharp eyes were looking at some strange creatures who were wandering around on the edge of the mist. These creatures had green bodies. No, it wasn't the crystal green of the common slimes, but a much darker, mud-like green. Apart from this, their bodies were also too huge that they couldn't hide in the mist. Are they giant slimes? These strange green slimes were all as big as a small hill. The smallest giant slime was about 10 meters tall, and the biggest giant slime was over 30 meters tall. The most important thing was, they were eating each other and becoming much bigger. Yunshi could imagine what would happen if they left the island of mist. They were not as harmless as the common green slimes. Their huge bodies would become a big moving disaster to the people in this world. Let's fight. Yunkei drew her black long bow. They had done everything they could do, and now, it was time to fight. Only the victor could obtain the future. This world didn't need two god-like beings. Between the water god and the sky sword, only one of them could become this world's master. Open the door. My brides, come to this world. Yunshi stretched out his hand and waved in the air. A mist door appeared and opened behind him. A well-organized mist soul army walked out of the mist door behind Yunshi. The mist souls floated in the air, above the limitless sea surface. 4/5 of them were humans and 1/5 of them were sea demons. They were all Yunshi's brides. The total number of Yunshi's mist soul brides was 1,001,370. They were the last result of Yunkei's expansion plan of 1,000,000 brides. In the front of Shaolongness, the Sky Sword Slime Army, only Yunshi's Mist Soul Army had the possibility to defeat them all. Attack the enemies. Yunkei took a glance at the dark elf in the center of the Mist Soul Army, then moved her eyes back and drew the longbow in her hand. Countless red lotus arrows shot to the giant slimes from Yunkei's longbow. The dark elf Mist Soul raised the black sword in her hand and commanded other Mist Souls in silence. She didn't need to speak, because Mist Souls had a special mental bond amongst each other. This was a perfect army that all commanding officers had dreamed of. Boom! 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 With earth-shaking explosion, the Mist Soul Army pressed forward with indomitable will. They wouldn't die and wouldn't feel afraid. Even if their partners' bodies had been torn into pieces in the explosion or were squashed by the giant slimes, their hearts wouldn't shake. On the contrary, their attacks could actually hit on the giant slimes' bodies. Swords, arrows, magics and divine spells, they all caused true damage to these giant slimes. After shooting an arrow, Yunkei had found that she didn't need to attack anymore, because the Mist Soul Army had overwhelmed the giant slimes. They were faster than lightning and more nimble than the leaves in the wind. Yunkei couldn't describe how strong this army was, because even the 10 Leaves Alliance didn't have such a super army. As the first line of defense of the Sky Sword's camp, the giant slimes couldn't even hold on 15 minutes. Before that, they had all been slaughtered and only left a pile of green cores on the ground. Under the Dark Elf's control, the Mist Soul Army exposed a terrifying force. Their swords could cut open the sea and the sky. Their spells could summon hails, lightning and storms. The Mist Soul Army was formed by 1,000,000 girls, which meant that the army could use almost all attacking methods these girls knew and their bloodline powers. When these girls' powers were gathered together and controlled by a great commander, the Dark Elf, their actual power was even stronger than Yunkei had guessed. This battle is over. Yunshi stepped on the island and picked up one green core after another from the ground. The green bracelet on Yunshi's arm looked very interested in the green cores. It immediately absorbed these green cores all. Your Mist Soul Army is really a horrible monster, Yunkei said. Although this army was created by herself, and her Mist Soul was even this army's commander, Yunkei still thought that its power was much too strong and that it shouldn't be able to appear in this world. P.S. Volume 1 and Volume 2 of Starchild Escapes Arranged Marriage. https://www.amazon.com com/dp/b076dd5h5, from C1 to C62, https://www.amazon.com/dp/b07dyd59q6, from C63 to C144. Chapter 248, The third phase. The giant slime flock, which could destroy a kingdom easily, was killed off by Yunxi's Mist Soul army within 15 minutes. Even if it was the 10 Leaves Alliance's elite army, without hero-ranked warriors' assistance, they would need to pay a heavy price to defeat these tough enemies. But now, the Mist Soul army slaughtered these giant slimes like breaking a dead branch from a tree. Till now, Yunxi had only put 10,000 Mist Souls into the battlefield, and most Mist Souls were still staying behind the Mist Door. It's so lucky that we are in the same camp. Yun-Kei sorted out her feelings. Is my Mist Soul really the supreme commander of this strong army? It's like a dream. It's because we have an excellent commander. I'm not good at commanding the army, and it was all the Dark Elf Mist Soul's credit. Thank you for your recommendation. Yunxi looked at the Dark Elf Mist Soul with a sheepish look. The Dark Elf was standing in the front row of all Mist Souls. Because she wouldn't die, she didn't need to be protected by the army. Instead, she led the charge as a vanguard. Yunxi could see that she was familiar with battle. Under her leadership, the Mist Soul army was about 2 times stronger than when he commanded the army. Before she used her hero-ranked ability, the Mist Soul army had wiped out all the giant slimes quickly. Yun-Kei's recommendation was remarkable. The dark elf named Black Moon was born to be a war leader. However, when Yunxi looked at the dark elf, he could feel her loneliness. Nothing praiseworthy, because great command capability can be learned through practice. There are many excellent commanders in the universe, however, your Mist Soul army is unique. Looking at her own projection, the lonely dark elf in the Mist Soul army, Yun-Kei smiled bitterly. As an assassin, why did she have such a great command capability? The reason was cruel. For her mission, for her justice, she had stepped onto countless battlefields and had stained her hands with blood a long time ago. Her justice wasn't without a price. For victory, she had made cruel choices many times and had given up many people who believed in her. Everything was for victory, because only the victor could obtain the future. Let's keep moving. I have a feeling that this battle will be very cruel. Before they stepped on the island, they had encountered so many giant slimes. This fact made Yun-Kei have a very bad feeling in her heart. Alongness, the Sky Sword's erosion of this world was faster and deeper than her imagination. The information she had collected in the Celian city was probably just a small portion of the Sky Sword's actual power. I have the same feeling. Many smells in the mist don't belong to this world. Yunxi sniffed, feeling a vague tingling sensation through his white emperor mask. Bang! 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 Quickly, their bad feelings came true. With a spate of explosive sounds, something happened. One slime after another gushed out of the ground and the water, flocking to Yunxi and Yun-Quebec. Poison slime, marsh slime, ice slime, metal slime, lava slime, rock slime, giant slime, silver slime. Yun-Kei had mentioned that there would be all kinds of slimes appearing in the second phase of the Sky Sword's coming. Now, they all appeared and rushed to them from the mist. There was a special network amongst all the slimes. When the giant slimes were killed off, the slimes in the mist immediately knew it and made their response. Let's continue our fight. Yun-Kei drew her black longbow with blood mark in her eyes. Open up, the door of Mist Souls. Yunxi summoned the mist door again. Instantly, one row of Mist Souls after another walked out of the door and onto the battlefield. In the deepest side of the island of Mist, the Dark Shadow Spider Queen was sitting on her Dark Shadow throne. Her naked toes lightly touched the big net in front of her. Most of the area on the island had been covered in this big net, becoming the Dark Shadow Spider Queen's territory. This was the Queen's favorite tactic, capturing her prey in the net, then let them choke to death in despair. 74%. With the power from the Sky Sword, this net was 100 times bigger than all the nets she could weave before. 75%. Countless slimes were invading into the largest forbidden area in this world, the Island of Mist. The progress meant that they had occupied 3/4 of the space on this island, which also stood for the progress of the Sky Sword's coming. What Yun Shi and Yun Kei had known was far away from the truth. Even before they entered the Celian city, the first Golden Slime King had been born. Soon after, the second, the third. Every Golden Slime King was like a node. They built a coordinate system, guiding the Sky Sword's avatar the way to this world. This world was covered with the Water God's power. As a Sky Sword, Sheolongness was one of the strongest beings in the Sky Sword God's domain. Even so, it wasn't easy for her to descend into this world. She must be guided by suitable nodes in the coordinate system, so that she would be able to squeeze into this world through a sufficiently large spatial channel. Now, Sheolongness, the Sky Sword's coming had started the countdown. As a void creature, the Dark Shadow Spider Queen could naturally find the weakest spatial point of any world. The Island of Mist was the best landing place she chose for the Sky Sword. P.S. Volume 1 and Volume 2 of Starchild Escapes Arranged Marriage. https://www.amazon.com/dp/b076dd5h5 from C1 to C62 https://www.amazon.com/dp/b07dyd59q6 from C63 to C144. You're tuning in to the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.